Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles. Grandson understands. Gongzi Feng nodded. As long as we can get rid of Jiang Haotian and the others, this old man will do as you wish and give your mother a proper status. Furthermore, this old man will allow you to inherit the Feng family's business in the future. Feng Yuan said again. Thank you, grandfather. Gongzi Feng hurriedly knelt on the ground and said excitedly. Get up. Feng Yuan smiled. Yes. Gongzi Feng respectfully replied and stood beside Yin Hui and Jin Yinchang, his face full of joy. But gradually, he revealed a trace of hesitation. Feng Yuan said, if you have something to say, just say it. Gongzi Feng said, although the plan this time is perfect, I'm still a little worried. After all, Jiang Haotian is not an ordinary person. Don't worry, when you see Jia and I killed Chengli, no one saw it. As for Jiang Haotian, then there's even less to worry about. Those 4 disciples have already been killed by Jiang Haotian, and now there's no evidence. Jin Yinchang smiled. Actually, his worry is understandable. Thinking back, how much losses did Jiang Haotian make our Feng family suffer? Although he's our enemy, to be honest, I really admire his brain. Yin Hui sighed. Don't boost others' morale and destroy our own. No matter how terrifying his brain is, isn't it still in our hands now? Feng Yuan sneered. Yin Hui, Jin Yinchang, and Gongzi Feng looked at each other and couldn't help but sneer. The next day. Early in the morning. The big shots of 9 Heavens Palace entered the Great Council Hall one after another. Soon. Shangguan Fenglan also entered the Great Council Hall. She glanced at the people present, then sat down at the table. She looked at the great elder above and said telepathically, what the hell is Feng Yuan doing, calling us here early in the morning? Is there a need to think about it? It must have something to do with Madman and the others. The great elder thought to himself without any change in his expression. Shangguan Fenglan's heart trembled, and she sighed, it seems that this time, Feng Yuan is going to kill them. The great elder nodded without leaving a trace, and asked secretly, did you find out anything? No. But something very strange happened yesterday. Shangguan Fenglan said. What strange thing? The great elder was suspicious. Shangguan Fenglan said secretly, Feng Wenhai's son, Gongzi Feng, actually came to me yesterday, saying that Jiang Haotian and the others already have a plan, and told us not to interfere, just wait and watch the show. There's such a thing. The great elder was surprised. I'm also puzzled. Gongzi Feng is Feng Yuan's grandson, why would he be involved with Jiang Haotian and the others? Shangguan Fenglan said. The great elder pondered for a while and smiled secretly, since Jiang Haotian and the others have said so, then let's wait and watch the show. Okay. Shangguan Fenglan replied, with some expectation in her eyes. Duh. Hui Yi stood beside Shangguan Fenglan and also ordered the 3 of them, yes, get out. Are you looking for a beating? Madman slowly stood up and looked at Hui Yi with an unfriendly gaze. Hui Yi grinned. Shangguan Fenglan's face darkened and said, don't talk nonsense, go to the conference hall immediately. Has it finally begun? Qin Feiyang was stunned, then a smile crept up his face. Madman and the other 2 were also full of smiles. Shangguan Fenglan looked at the 4 of them suspiciously and said, looking at you, why do you seem to know that we are going to the conference hall today? To tell you the truth, everything is under our control. Hui Yi clenched his fist and smiled proudly. Is that so? Shangguan Fenglan was surprised. Of course. We also know that in addition to you, the great elder, and the other big shots, Feng Yuan, Yin Hui, Jin Yinchang, and Gongzi Feng are also in the conference hall. Hui Yi said. You really know? Shangguan Fenglan was stunned. Mu Tianyang smiled and said, Palace Master, let's go, the show is about to begin. Shengguan Fenglan glanced at the four of them, then turned and walked outside. Qin Feiyang and the other three followed closely behind her. "That's right, Palace Master. Has our matter spread outside?" Qin Feiyang suddenly asked. "Speaking of this, I'm still a little puzzled. Just this morning, I received a report from my subordinates, saying that someone seemed to be secretly adding fuel to the fire, deliberately spreading your matter. Now even those remote villages know about it." Shengguan Fenglan said. "This is a good thing." Qin Feiyang smiled. Frankly speaking, this Gongzifeng's efficiency was really good. In just one day, it was already so fierce. That's right. This was what he had asked Gongzifeng to do on purpose. Just like dealing with Feng Wenhai last time, the fiercer the matter, the more exciting and interesting it would be. Chapter 2138. Good news. Shengguan Fenglan was stunned. She glanced at Qin Feiyang and then shook her head. She really couldn't understand what this kid was trying to do. After the group left the prison, they went straight to the conference hall. Soon, the conference hall appeared in their sight. Shengguan Fenglan landed in front of the door and said in a low voice, "Wait outside." After saying that, she entered the door alone. Qin Feiyang and the other three stood outside the door and scanned the big shots in the hall. "Big Brother Jiang, I have done what you asked me to do. I have also obtained the evidence. You must protect me later, or I will definitely die in the hands of Feng Yuan and the others." Gong Zifeng, who was standing next to him, suddenly transmitted his voice to Qin Feiyang. "Don't worry." Qin Feiyang glanced at Gong Zifeng and secretly laughed. Inside the hall, Shengguan Fenglan walked to the opposite side of the First Elder and bowed. "First Elder, Jiang Haotian and the others have been brought here." "And?" The First Elder nodded and looked at Qin Feiyang and the other three standing at the door. "Come in." Qin Feiyang and the other three looked at each other and walked into the hall side by side. "Greetings, First Elder." "Greetings, Lords." Qin Feiyang, Hua Yi, and Mu Tianyang respectfully bowed to the big shots. Of course, Madman was an exception. The big shots were also curiously sizing them up. They were naturally no strangers to Madman. As for Qin Feiyang, Hua Yi, and Mu Tianyang, although they were no strangers, it was the first time they met face to face. Qin Feiyang was also quietly sizing up these big shots of Nine Heavens Palace. There were a total of more than a dozen people. There were men and women, old and young. The aura emitted by each of them was like a vast ocean, unfathomable. Madman suddenly pointed to a woman sitting next to Feng Yuan and transmitted his voice. "She is Yin Hui." Qin Feiyang looked over and his pupils immediately shrank. The aura Yin Hui exuded was not weaker than Feng Wenhai's. "Her cultivation is stronger than mine. I used to be a minor paragon god. Now that I've come out of seclusion, I should be a major paragon god." Madman thought. Paragon divinity. Qin Feiyang was shocked. He didn't expect this woman's strength to be so terrifying. "Hey, hey, hey!" Madman suddenly shouted. He looked at the big shots and said unhappily, "Where are our chairs? Are we just going to stand here like this? How dare you!" The Great Elder coldly shouted. Madman pursed his lips and said, "No chairs. Fine, I'll sit on the ground." After saying that, he really sat down on the ground. One of the old men said angrily, "Madman, do you know that you look like a scoundrel in the secular world right now? So what if I'm a rascal? Don't look if you don't want to." Madman dug his nose and said lightly. "You," the old man was so angry that he blew his beard and glared. Cough cough. "Jiang Haotian, do you admit what Gongzifeng said?" Qin Feiyang was silent. The other three didn't say anything. It was as if they weren't worried at all. The first elder frowned and transmitted his voice, Fenglan, what's going on? Didn't you say that Gongzi Feng is on Jiang Haotian's side? I'm not sure either. Shangguan Fenglan secretly said. What the hell were these brats doing? Feng Yuan snorted coldly, First Elder, how could he admit to this kind of thing? But just based on Gongzi Feng's one-sided words, it's not enough to prove that this matter is true. After all, Gongzi Feng is a member of your Feng family. The First Elder said. Feng Yuan said, it's precisely because he's a member of my Feng family that he won't lie. What do you mean? The First Elder was suspicious. There's one thing that the First Elder and everyone present might not know. Actually, Gongzi Feng is not the son of Wen Hai and Yin Hui. Feng Yuan said. What? The elders looked at each other. Actually, Gongzi Feng is the son of Wen Hai and a brothel girl. In other words, he is an illegitimate child that isn't recognized. Feng Yuan said. Illegitimate child? Everyone was stunned. When Gongzi Feng heard the words illegitimate child, he also felt an inexplicable sense of humiliation. He slowly lowered his head, not daring to look at everyone's eyes. This matter is a great humiliation to our Feng family, so we have been keeping it a secret. It's also because he's an illegitimate child that our Feng family has always disliked him. He's also very prejudiced against my Feng clan. Think about it, with our relationship, would he fabricate a lie to help us frame Jiang Haotian? If it were you, would you? Feng Yuan said. No. The big shots shook their heads. If it were them, they would only have hatred for the Feng family. So what if he was an illegitimate child? Did he deserve such unfair treatment just because he was an illegitimate child? So, seeing Feng Zijuan, who had always bullied them, get into trouble, they couldn't be happier. Naturally, they wouldn't help the Feng family frame Jiang Haotian. Since it was impossible, then what Gongzi Feng said was the truth. Jiang Haotian, you're too bold. This old man really doesn't know who gave you the courage to act so recklessly in our Nine Heavens Palace. The old man who scolded Frenzy before looked at Qin Feiyang and said. Qin Feiyang was still indifferent. Great Elder, this person first killed Zijuan and extorted the white tiger blood essence from this old man. Then, he used his power for personal gain and silenced us. May I ask, how should we deal with such a crime? Feng Yuan said. Kill. He must be killed. Kill one as an example to others. If we let him go like this, then what rules will there be in our Nine Heavens Palace? The big shots expressed their opinions one after another. Lords, there's one more thing. What Jiang Haotian and Frenzy did has now spread throughout the entire northern region. If we still indulge them, I'm afraid it will seriously affect the reputation of our Nine Heavens Palace. Yin Hui suddenly interjected. What? The news has spread throughout the northern region so quickly. Then this matter can't be neglected. Not only Jiang Haotian must be executed, but Frenzy, Hua Yi, and Mu Tianyang must also be executed. Otherwise, our Nine Heavens Palace will be scolded for protecting our disciples. The big shots said one after another. The Great Elder looked at the intense reaction of the crowd and couldn't help but gradually frown. These four bastards, why aren't they fighting back? Shangguan Fenglan was also extremely irritated. Feng Yuan cupped his hands and said, Great Elder, we know that you usually like Frenzy, but this time, the matter is too big, please reconsider. Yes, Great Elder, you can't ruin the reputation of our Nine Heavens Palace because of your personal emotions. The others also persuaded. Yin Hui and Jin Yunchang didn't speak anymore, but looked at the big shots with a trace of a smile in their eyes. Then, they glanced at Qin Feiyang and the others and couldn't help but sneer in their hearts. Let's see how you can escape this time. Seeing that Qin Feiyang and the other three still didn't say anything, the Great Elder couldn't help but say angrily, the four of you really have nothing to say. The four of them remained silent. Feng Yuan cupped his hands and said, "Silence means tacit agreement. Great Elder, please give the order." "Who?" The Great Elder took a deep breath and looked at the four of them. "Since you don't want to defend yourselves, then this old man will give the order," this old man announces. But at this moment, Qin Feiyang and the other three looked at each other and finally reacted. Qin Feiyang stretched out his hand and said with a smile, "Great Elder, wait." Chapter 2139. The Great Elder was slightly taken aback. He looked at Qin Feiyang and the other three and frowned. "What do you want to say?" Feng Yuan, Yin Hui, and Jin Yinchang also looked at the four of them suspiciously. At this point, there shouldn't be any excuses, right? Because the situation was already decided. No matter what they said, no one would believe them. If you want to condemn someone, you can always find a pretext. In fact, these things were fabricated by Yin Hui, Jin Yinchang, and Feng Yuan. No. To be precise, it's a framing. Qin Feiyang said. Framing? The leaders frowned. It's finally starting. Shangguan Fenglan muttered. These guys wouldn't sit still and wait for death. She was worried for nothing. Jiang Haotian, you can't say things like that. Feng Yuan is the hall master of our resource hall, Yin Hui is an elder of our enforcement hall, and Jin Yinchang is an inner elder. They are all reputable figures in our Nine Heavens Palace. Slandering them is a bigger crime than abusing your power to silence them. The Great Elder said in a deep voice. Qin Feiyang smiled, of course, this disciple knows that. The Great Elder frowned, if that's the case, why didn't you defend yourselves before? It's simple. Just watch the show. We want to see what kind of face they will show. The result didn't disappoint us. It's very exciting. Qin Feiyang smiled. Presumptuous. Jiang Haotian, the evidence is conclusive. Even if you have a glib tongue, don't think about getting away with it today. Feng Yuan said angrily. Evidence. Qin Feiyang chuckled and shook his head. Feng Yuan, oh Feng Yuan, you really don't have a long memory. Isn't the end of Feng Wenhai and Jin Yinchang enough of a lesson for you? Jiang Haotian, you're wrong. It's not that he doesn't have a long memory, it's just that he's old and his memory is getting worse. Madman said indifferently. Preposterous, preposterous. Feng Yuan was furious. He looked at the elder, Elder, did you see that? This is their attitude. After all, I am the hall head of the resource hall. Indeed, he is too insensible. Our Nine Heavens Palace has always had a good reputation. How could we have such a disciple? The other leaders shook their heads as they looked at Qin Feiyang's group. The first elder saw that the situation was bad. He looked at Qin Feiyang and the madman and said, if you have something to say, say it. Don't mess around. All right. Qin Feiyang nodded and turned to look at Feng Yuan and Jin Yinchang. He then looked at Yin Hui and said with a smile, to be honest, I admire you. You sent us to prison as soon as you came out of seclusion. You're much better than Feng Wenhai. Yin Hui didn't say anything, but her eyes flickered. But there's a saying that goes, cleverness leads to the downfall of cleverness. If you don't get Gongfeng to look for me in the prison and ask about Guyong's whereabouts, I won't be able to break the deadlock you set up this time. Qin Feiyang smiled. Yin Hui was shocked. Do you know? When I saw your faces before, I really wanted to laugh. Because in my eyes, you're as funny as clowns. Qin Feiyang said. Clowns? The madman was stunned. He thought about it carefully and nodded, that's a good word. It suits them very well. Hui Yi and Mu Tianyang also laughed. But it was full of sarcasm. Feng Yuan and the other two's faces became uglier and uglier. The first elder raised his eyebrows and said angrily, I'll warn you again. Don't talk nonsense. Yes, yes, yes. Qin Feiyang nodded and looked at the other leaders. He smiled and said, I believe that it's not only the first elder who can't wait, but all of you must also want to know what the truth is. So now, I'll have someone tell you the real truth. The real truth. Everyone looked at each other and then looked at Qin Feiyang again. Qin Feiyang looked at Feng Yuan and the other two and said with a smile, you guys have to sit tight. Don't be scared stiff later. After speaking, Qin Feiyang still looked at Feng Yuan and the other two and said, say it. Who is he talking to? Everyone was surprised and naturally looked at the madman, Hua Yi, and Mu Tianyang. Because the three of them were with Qin Feiyang. If it wasn't Qin Feiyang, then it must be one of the three. But in the end, the madman and the other two didn't speak. Just when everyone was about to lose their patience, Gong Zongfeng suddenly took a step forward. In an instant, Gong Zongfeng became the focus of everyone again. However, there was a trace of suspicion in everyone's eyes. Why did Gong Zongfeng stand out? Including Feng Yuan and the other two. No one thought that Qin Feiyang was talking to Gong Zongfeng just now. Gong Zongfeng glanced at everyone and said, First Elder, Lords, I said before that Jiang Haotian is the murderer of my second brother, Feng Zijuan. Everyone nodded. Gong Zongfeng glanced at Feng Yuan and the other two and suddenly changed the topic. He looked at the First Elder and said, Actually, those words were taught to me by Feng Yuan, Yin Hui, and Jin Yinchang. What? The First Elder suddenly stood up. The others were also dumbfounded. What was going on? Gong Zongfeng, what are you trying to say? Feng Yuan and the other two had an uneasy premonition in their hearts as they stared gloomily at Gong Zongfeng. But Gong Zongfeng turned a deaf ear to them and looked at the First Elder and continued, I reckon that the First Elder shouldn't have understood. Then, I will say it again. Those words were taught by Feng Yuan and the others in order to frame Jiang Haotian and the other three. Gong Zongfeng. Feng Yuan and Yin Hui shouted in unison, their eyes gloomy to the extreme. Jin Yinchang, on the other hand, had a look of surprise. They actually turned against him. But why was that? Frame Jiang Haotian and the other three? What the hell is going on? The big shots also frowned and kept discussing. At the same time, the First Elder and Shengguan Fenglan also looked at each other, and a glint flashed in their eyes at the same time. Silence. The First Elder shouted. The great council hall immediately fell into dead silence. The First Elder looked at Gong Zongfeng and said, This old man is very interested to hear how they framed Jiang Haotian and the other three. First Elder, don't listen to his nonsense. Feng Yuan hurriedly said. Gong Zongfeng, why is that? Could it be that Jiang Haotian and the others gave you some benefits? Yin Hui and Jin Yinchang were also burning with anxiety as they secretly reprimanded Gong Zongfeng. But Gong Zongfeng ignored them from beginning to end. The First Elder looked at Feng Yuan and said with a smile, Don't be anxious, let him speak first. Feng Yuan wanted to say something again. But at this moment, Gong Zongfeng spoke. First Elder, the truth is that Cheng Li was actually killed by Jin Yinchang and Yu Zijie, and then framed senior brother Feng Zi and the other two. And the 4 disciples that appeared in the resource hall were deliberately arranged by Yin Hui, Yu Zijie, and Jin Yinchang in order to lure Jiang Haotian into the trap. As for Feng Zijuan being killed by Jiang Haotian, that's an even more groundless accusation. And all of this was meticulously planned by them in order to get rid of Jiang Haotian and the others. Gong Zongfeng said. What? Cheng Li was actually killed by Yu Zijie and Jin Yinchang. Wait. Why is Yu Zijie involved in this matter? The powerhouses were surprised. Because senior brother Feng Zi has always been suppressing Yu Zijie, which made Yu Zijie very unhappy. Especially the last time in the treasure pavilion, when he was bidding for the 4 symbols infinite divine pill, senior brother Feng Zi humiliated him in public, causing him to bear a grudge in his heart. So, he joined forces with Yin Hui and the others to get rid of senior brother Feng Zi. Gong Zong Feng said. Gong Zong Feng, have you said enough? What benefits did you receive from them to actually help them bite back at us? Yin Hui and Jin Yinchang shouted. I didn't receive any benefits from them. I just don't want to collude with you guys, and I don't want a good person like senior brother Jiang to be harmed by you guys, so I told the truth. Gong Zong Feng said indifferently. Yin Hui was infuriated. No wonder Qin Feiyang and the others weren't worried at all before. It turned out that they had already bribed Gong Zong Feng. The first elder said with a smile, this matter is really getting more and more interesting. First elder, don't listen to his nonsense. He must be holding a grudge against us because we didn't give his mother a status, so he joined forces with Jiang Haotian and the others to take revenge on us. Feng Yuan hurriedly said. Yes, yes, yes. He has always been brooding about this matter. First elder, you have to be clear about this. The words of such a person are not worthy of trust at all. Jin Yinchang also said. Not worthy of trust? That's not right. Why didn't I see you guys say such things when you were slandering us earlier? Now that he has told the truth, you guys are saying that he is not worthy of trust. Isn't that too realistic? Qin Feiyang looked at the three of them mockingly. That's because we were blind before and didn't see his true colors clearly. Jin Yinchang roared. Huh, you really should dig out your eyes. Otherwise, why are you so blind and always provoking us? Qin Feiyang laughed. Jin Yinchang was so angry that he gritted his teeth. The first elder glanced at Qin Feiyang and Jin Yinchang and said angrily, quiet. Jin Yinchang became obedient at once. Qin Feiyang also shut his mouth tactfully. The first elder looked at Gong Zong Feng and said in a deep voice, your one-sided words can't be used as evidence. I know that no one will believe you if you go back on your words like this. Gong Zong Feng nodded. The first elder asked, then do you have evidence? I don't. Gong Zong Feng shook his head. Feng Yuan and the other two immediately heaved a sigh of relief. It was good that there was no evidence. Gong Zong Feng said again, but it doesn't mean that others don't have evidence. What? Feng Yuan and the other two were shocked. Their hearts that had just been relieved were suspended again. Who? The first elder asked. Me. A burst of laughter suddenly rang out in the void. Immediately after, a young man in purple appeared beside Gong Zong Feng out of thin air. You are. The first elder looked at the young man in purple suspiciously. The young man in purple bowed and said, First elder, my name is Mu Qing, an inner disciple. Mu Qing. The first elder frowned. Shangguan Fenglan said, First elder, I have seen him before. He seems to be Mu Tianyang's relative. The first elder stared blankly for a moment before he suddenly smiled and said, I remember now. I saw him during the test. Yes. He was with Mu Tianyang and a girl named Guosweki. Shangguan Fenglan said. The other giants also remembered. There was indeed such a person. Chapter 2140. Mu Qing. Feng Yuan frowned. Yin Hui said to herself, Father, do you know this person too? Yes. During the assessment, the first elder seemed to be very concerned about him. Feng Yuan transmitted his voice. Concerned? Yin Hui was surprised. I still remember that Jiang Haotian entered a state of invisibility and wanted to assassinate this person. But in the end, this person seemed to know his location and dodged in advance. That's what the first elder is concerned about. Feng Yuan said to himself. Invisibility? Yin Hui frowned. There was no doubt. Jiang Haotian entered the state of invisibility because he had mastered a divine art that could make him invisible. But this Mu Qing could actually see through the other party's invisibility. This was a little unbelievable. The first elder looked at Mu Qing and asked, "Just now you said that you have evidence. Is that true?" "Yes." Mu Qing nodded. "Where is the evidence?" The first elder said. Mu Qing took out the image crystal and said with a smile, "The evidence is here." In an instant, everyone's eyes were fixed on the image crystal in Mu Qing's hand. Jin Yunchang was shocked and transmitted his voice, "Father-in-law, he wouldn't have secretly recorded something, right? Don't panic." Feng Yuan said to himself and stared at Mu Qing's image crystal with a gloomy expression. Yin Hui said to herself, "Why don't we just destroy the image crystal? Don't be impulsive. Maybe this is a trap set by Jiang Haotian." Feng Yuan transmitted his voice. "A trap?" Yin Hui and Jin Yunchang were surprised. "Yes. Maybe they don't have evidence at all. They are just pretending to lure us to take action. Because once we take action, it is equivalent to admitting that we framed them." Feng Yuan said to himself. "That's true. Only a guilty conscience would destroy the image crystal." Yin Hui and Jin Yunchang muttered. But in their hearts, there was always a sense of anxiety and uneasiness. Mu Qing looked at Feng Yuan and the other two and asked suspiciously, "Why didn't you have any reaction when you saw the image crystal? How do you want us to react?" Feng Yuan sneered. Mu Qing said, "There's evidence of you framing me. Logically speaking, shouldn't you destroy it when no one is paying attention?" "Destroy it? You must be joking. We are not afraid of crooked shadows." Feng Yuan sneered. He was certain that there was nothing inside the image crystal. This was a bait to lure them into making a move. Once they made a move, even if there was no evidence, it would be difficult for them to get away with it. Hearing Mu Qing's words, Yin Hui and Jin Yunchang's hearts calmed down. Did he really think that he could trick them with such a petty trick? Naive. Mu Qing looked at the three of them in astonishment and said, "Aren't you afraid that I'll make it public?" "Make it public?" Feng Yuan's face was filled with provocation. "Are you sure? Why don't I give you another chance? It's not too late to destroy it now." After Mu Qing finished speaking, she handed the image crystal to Feng Yuan. The sneer on Feng Yuan's face deepened. Alas! Mu Qing shook her head and sighed, saying, "You don't want the opportunity that's given to you. I really don't know what you're thinking." In that case, Mu Qing retreated to Mu Tianyang's side, looked at the chief elder and the other giants, and said with a smile, "Everyone, please enjoy." Buzz! The image crystal was immediately activated. In the void of the main hall, an image immediately unfolded. In the image, there were Feng Yuan, Yin Hui, Jin Yunchang, and Child Feng. Moreover, it was the time when Yin Hui told Feng Yuan about the overall plan. What? Feng Yuan and the other two were stunned as if they had been hit in the head. They didn't lie to them. There was really an image. Damn it! They should have destroyed the image crystal before. Although destroying the image crystal was a sign of guilt, there was no real evidence. The chief elder could only give them a warning at most. But it was different now. The image in front of them was irrefutable evidence. They had a chance, and the other party had given it to them, but they didn't cherish it. At this moment, the three of them were full of regret. But unfortunately, there was no medicine for regret in this world. It should be too late for them to destroy the image crystal now. Moreover, the chief elder and the others wouldn't give them the chance. "Father-in-law, what should we do?" Jin Yunchang looked at the image and couldn't help but tremble. "How would I know?" Feng Yuan said angrily. He didn't expect that Mu Qing would record their conversation. At this time, the meeting hall was dead silent. The chief elder, Shangguan Fenglan, and the other giants were all looking at the image in the void, their faces extremely gloomy. A moment later, the image finally ended. Mu Qing put away the image crystal, turned to look at Feng Yuan and the other two, and said, "Don't say that I didn't give you a chance. You didn't cherish it." Puff. As soon as these words came out, Feng Yuan immediately spat out a mouthful of blood. This was extreme anger attacking the heart. Smack. The chief elder slammed his palm on the table, stood up, looked at Feng Yuan and the other two, and shouted, "What do you have to say now?" The three of them trembled and directly knelt on the ground. "What did I say just now? Sit tight and don't be scared stiff. Didn't it come true?" Qin Feiyang looked at the three of them mockingly. The three of them were thinking about how to escape this disaster, so how could they listen to these words? "Feng Yuan, Yin Hui, you've gone too far this time. Jiang Haotian and the others did have a grudge against you, but you know in your heart that you provoked them first. Yet, you all have been unrepentant this entire time. Now, you even came up with such a vicious scheme to frame them. You even lied to us and the chief elder." The conference hall once again fell into dead silence. Duh. Not long after, accompanied by a burst of hurried footsteps, a young man in white ran into the conference hall. It was Yu Zijie. But when he saw Feng Yuan and the other two kneeling on the ground, his expression suddenly froze. "What's the situation? Why are they kneeling on the ground?" Coming back to his senses, Yu Zijie looked at Qin Feiyang and the others again and immediately fell into a daze. Why are these people standing? What happened? Logically speaking, the people kneeling on the ground should be frenzy in Jiang Haotian, right? Yu Zijie. The chief elder shouted. Yu Zijie quivered and hurriedly bowed, "Greetings to the chief elder, greetings to the lords. Answer me. Did you kill Chengli?" The chief elder asked. Yu Zijie was shocked and glanced at Feng Yuan and the other two. Could it be that the matter had been exposed? But how was this possible? Speak. The chief elder shouted. Yu Zijie hurriedly said, "Chief elder, where did this come from? Weren't Frenzy and the others the ones who killed Chengli? You really don't want to tell the truth." The chief elder's face was full of anger. As the second person on the heaven roll and the direct disciple of the second elder, you actually colluded with Feng Yuan and the others to frame others. You are really something. Plop. Yu Zijie quivered and directly knelt on the ground. He was so frightened that he was paralyzed. "Feng Yuan and the others have already confessed to the stupid things you have done. Tell me, how should I punish you?" The chief elder said coldly. "Confess?" Yu Zijie was taken aback and immediately roared in his heart. Damn it. Why did these three bastards confess? Chapter 2141. If it was just a small mistake, he wouldn't care at all. Because as the disciple of the second elder, he had a lot of glory and the upper echelons of 9 Heaven Palace wouldn't do anything to him. But this time, he killed an elder. Although he was only an outer elder, he was still an elder. The most important thing was, the person he framed was the person the great elder cared about the most. Perhaps even his master would be enraged if he heard of this. The great elder's face was gloomy as he shouted, "Yu Zijie, answer this old man's question." Yu Zijie's body trembled as he hurriedly said, "Great elder, this disciple was bewitched by them. This disciple is indeed wrong, this disciple will definitely change." Bewitched? The madman laughed in anger. He was clearly the mastermind, yet he was still complaining. He took a step forward and kicked Yu Zijie to the ground, causing his head to bleed. "Madman, you bastard," Yu Zijie immediately cursed, but when he got up and saw the expression on the madman's face, he couldn't help but feel a chill in his heart. The cursing also stopped abruptly. "You're cursing. If you have the guts, then curse me out." The madman licked his lips, his expression was cold, and his eyes were bloodthirsty. Uzijia's pupils constricted, and he couldn't help but feel fear in his heart. The madman laughed and grabbed Uzijia, pressing him to the ground and rubbing him crazily. Seeing this situation, the big shots couldn't help frowning. After all, he was the second elder's disciple, wasn't this a bit too much? But seeing the great elder indifferent, they didn't dare to stop him. After a while, Uzijia's face that was constantly rubbing against the ground was unrecognizable, and blood flowed all over the ground. Pain. A heart-wrenching pain. But compared to pain, it was more humiliation. Torturing him like this in front of so many people was a formless humiliation. But now, he didn't dare to fight back or resist. Because he had made a mistake, the great elder didn't say anything, which was equivalent to tacitly agreeing with the madman's actions. And in front of the madman, he didn't have the strength to fight back or resist. The madman suddenly stopped, got up and kicked. Uzijia immediately rolled like a ball, lying on the ground face up. The skin on his face was completely worn out, and he no longer looked human. The madman sneered, "Do you still remember what I said on the Saint Mountain?" Uzijia's body and mind tightened, and the panic in his heart grew stronger. Of course, he remembered that madman had silently said, "You're dead." But at that time, he didn't care at all. He thought that the lunatic would definitely die this time. However, he didn't expect the plot to turn around so quickly. How is it? Now it has come true. A piece of trash like you dares to scheme against me? The madman looked down at Uzijia with disdain. Trash. When Uzijia heard this, he clenched his fists tightly. His eyes were burning with rage. Still not convinced. The madman stomped on Uzijia's stomach, shattering his chi. Roar! Uzijia immediately let out a miserable howl like a pig being slaughtered. An old man couldn't bear it and said with a frown, "Madman, that should be enough." Enough? The madman raised his eyebrows as he looked at the old man and cursed, "Are you fucking joking?" "You," the old man's eyes widened. "What's wrong with me? When I was wrong just now, all of you were shouting at me and even wanted to kill me. But when it's Uzijia, why are all of you acting like a mute? And now you're scolding me? What's wrong? Do you think I'm easy to bully?" The madman said with a sneer. When the old man heard this, he immediately lowered his head in shame. "Actually, I know that all of you old fools have long found me an eyesore. Unfortunately, my life is very tough, I just can't die." The madman had a mocking expression. The first elder coughed dryly, "Madman, don't go too far. You won't let others speak the truth. Look at these people, which one of them isn't like the old man? They don't do anything usually, but when something happens, they run out. The key is that I haven't seen them say a single meaningful word. What's the point of living for such people? It's better to dig a hole early, lie in it, and then cover it with soil to avoid being hated." The madman pursed his lips. When Qin Feiyang and the other two heard this, their faces immediately turned red. This was really insulting. How could these old fellows have any face left? The atmosphere at the scene was quite awkward. The big shots were both angry and ashamed. Cough cough. The first elder coughed dryly and said, "Let's get to the point. Everyone, tell us, how should we deal with them?" The madman said indifferently, "Before you speak, you have to think carefully, lest you go down in history in infamy." Go down in history in infamy? Senior brother madman, why do you say that? Qin Feiyang was curious. Think about it yourself. Previously, when we were wronged, they all said righteously that if we weren't killed, it wouldn't be enough to appease the anger of the people. Now, if trash like Feng Yuan says that he's lenient because of old ties, wouldn't he be cursed in the future? The madman joked. Qin Feiyang thought for a while and said with a smile, "It does make sense." Nonsense. I'm such a smart person, how can my words not make sense? The madman touched his chin narcissistically, but when he looked at the big shots, his eyes were full of playfulness. The big shots were about to go crazy with anger. This madman was obviously mocking them. Seeing that the situation was set and couldn't be reversed, Yin Hui couldn't help but sigh secretly. She looked at the first elder and pleaded, "First elder, this matter really has nothing to do with my father. I am willing to bear it alone. Please look at my father's conscientious work in the Nine Heavens Palace all these years and give him a way out." Feng Yuan looked at Yin Hui, tears flowing down his old face. "Father, you are not in the wrong. You were implicated by us. I'm sorry to have implicated you." Yin Hui blamed herself. "No. First elder, I am the mastermind of this matter. Yin Hui and Jin Yinchang were instigated by me. I am willing to bear all the consequences." Feng Yuan gritted his teeth and looked at the first elder. Yin Hui's expression changed and said secretly, "Father, what are you doing?" Jin Yinchang was also quite surprised. He originally guessed that Feng Yuan might let him take the blame. Because, although he was Feng Yuan's son-in-law, whether it was background or strength, he couldn't compare to Yin Hui. After all, Yin Hui still had a master. Her master was an existence that even the big shots had to be respectful to. However, he never thought that Feng Yuan would take the blame himself. "I know what I am doing. Although this will ruin my reputation, with my status in the Nine Heavens Palace and my contributions to the Nine Heavens Palace over the years, the first elder will definitely not kill me. But you are different. Once you bear this responsibility, you will have to pay the price of beheading. My Feng family has already become like this. No one can be sacrificed." Feng Yuan transmitted his voice. His tone was full of bitterness and helplessness. Emir Jiang Haotian had caused their Feng family to become like this? Was this fate? The first elder looked at the three, his eyes flickering. Finally, he looked at Feng Yuan and sighed, "This old man can understand your feelings. But the evidence that Mu Qin took out is enough to prove that you only knew about it after the fact. So this responsibility has to be shouldered by Yin Hui and Jin Yinchang." After the first elder finished speaking, he looked at Yu Zijia and said, "You too. Although you are the second elder's disciple, you have to be punished for your mistakes." Yu Zijia's eyes trembled. Then, the first elder looked at the big shots and said, "This is not the first time the Feng family has framed Jiang Haotian. If this matter is not handled properly, it will definitely arouse public anger. Everyone, please make a decision." The big shots looked at each other, unable to make up their minds for a moment. One of the middle-aged men said, "First elder, since the victims are Jiang Haotian and the other three, why don't we let them make the decision?" "Yes, yes, yes. Whether it's for public or private reasons, it's best to let them make the decision." The others agreed. They didn't want to incur Feng Yuan's hatred. Because from the first elder's attitude, he didn't have any intention of punishing Feng Yuan. Of course. The person they were most afraid of was Yin Hui's master, Elder Yun. This old man wasn't someone they could offend. Therefore, it was better not to get involved in this matter. Mu Tianyang glanced at the big shots and secretly sneered, "What a bunch of old foxes. I've long expected it. As long as Feng Yuan is still the hall master of the resource hall, they won't dare to offend him." Qin Feiyang secretly said. As for the first elder. In fact, just like when he punished Feng Wenhai last time, he didn't want to be the bad guy, so he let the big shots make the decision. Jiang Haotian, Frenzy, Hua Yi, Mu Tianyang, since the big shots suggested that you guys make the decision, then you guys should think about it carefully. The first elder laughed. Old fox, the four of them couldn't help but curse in their hearts. He actually handed it over to them. For a time, the four of them once again became the focus of the audience. This matter, cough, cough. Brother Jiang should make the decision. Mu Tianyang laughed. Yes, yes, yes. Brother Jiang has the deepest grudge with the Feng family, so it's very appropriate to let Brother Jiang make the decision. Hua Yi also laughed. Jiang Haotian, you have a heavy responsibility. Frenzy patted Qin Feiyang's shoulder and laughed. Are you guys interested? Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes. The three of them laughed but didn't say anything. Qin Feiyang was helpless. He glanced at Yin Hui and Jin Yunchang before looking at Yu Zijie. Yin Hui and Jin Yunchang didn't care. After all, they had already offended the Feng family. But this Yu Zijie was a very troublesome problem. One has to know that behind Yu Zijie was the second elder, and his talent was also very outstanding. If he died because of him, the second elder would most likely come to find trouble with him. If he understood the second elder, he might be able to think of a countermeasure. But currently, he knew nothing about the second elder. Hurry up, everyone is waiting. Frenzy urged. Qin Feiyang secretly said angrily, don't you want to deal with Yu Zijie? Now that such a good opportunity has presented itself, why don't you make a move? I've already beaten him up just now, and I've already vented my anger. Frenzy secretly laughed. Chapter 2142. Qin Feiyang stared at Madman and took a deep breath. Since when did he become so wishy-washy? He wasn't like this in the past. Could it be that the sharpness from back then had been wiped out? In fact, sharpness was something that everyone had when they were young. But as they continued to grow, as time passed, they would slowly change and no longer be as impulsive and reckless as before. In short, after a person matured, before doing anything, they would consider all aspects. Jiang Haotian, how about we talk again? Suddenly, an old voice sounded in Qin Feiyang's mind. Qin Feiyang was taken aback and looked at Feng Yuan. Because the owner of the voice was Feng Yuan. Feng Yuan transmitted his voice, same as last time, 4 billion soul stones, for peak-level divine arts. Ah! Qin Feiyang was stunned, this again. Jiang Haotian, how about we talk? Suddenly, another voice sounded in Qin Feiyang's mind. Qin Feiyang looked at Yu Zijie in surprise. Yu Zijie secretly said, I will give you 1 billion soul stones, let me go, and I promise that I will treat you like a brother in the future. Brother? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Although you have Madman's protection now, you have to know that Madman can go to the Divine Palace at any time. When Madman goes to the Divine Palace, then you will have no support in Nine Heavens Palace. And now, as long as we become friends, then I can be your backer in the future. At that time, you can still run rampant in Nine Heavens Palace. Yu Zijie transmitted his voice. Friend? Backer? Qin Feiyang secretly laughed and said, but before, you wanted to kill me. This is a misunderstanding. You should also know that my real target is not you. Yu Zijie secretly said. I know your target is Madman, but I almost died under your tricks, that is an indisputable fact. Do you think we can be friends like this? Qin Feiyang transmitted his voice. Of course. As long as you're willing. Yu Zijie said. Do you know? If it was me who had just entered Nine Heavens Palace, I would have definitely agreed. Because at that time, I lacked soul stones. But now, I don't lack anything. Qin Feiyang said to Yu Zijie indifferently. Then, he said to Feng Yuan through telepathy, last time, I already showed mercy, but in return, you guys went from bad to worse. So, this kind of thing won't happen again. Following closely. Qin Feiyang raised his head and looked at the Great Elder. He bowed and said, Great Elder, this disciple has made his decision. Go ahead. The Grand Elder said. Jiang Haotian, you better think carefully, Yu Zijie and Feng Yuan shouted at Qin Feiyang at almost the same time. Qin Feiyang turned a deaf ear to the great elder's words. As all the lords have said, this matter has already spread to the entire northern territory. If we do not punish them severely, it will damage the reputation of our Nine Heavens Palace. It is because she is my disciple that I have to end her life with my own hands. Elder Yun's eyes were cold, looking at Yin Hui with a face of disappointment. In the past, I accepted you as a disciple because I saw that you were ambitious and kind-hearted, but I didn't expect that you would become like this today. I'm sorry. Yin Hui lowered her head. Elder Yun stepped forward, touched Yin Hui's head, and sighed. In fact, I don't want to kill you, but since you made a mistake, you should bear the consequences. Master, please do it. Yin Hui slowly closed her eyes. Sigh. Elder Yun let out a long sigh, the divine power in his palm moved, and a stream of blood suddenly gushed out from the top of Yin Hui's head. Elder Yun said, "Don't worry, this old man will take good care of Zihan for you." "Thank you, Master." Yin Hui smiled gratefully. Elder Yun's arm shook, and a crisp sound suddenly came from Yin Hui's head. Following that, Yin Hui slowly fell to the ground, and her life fluctuations quickly dissipated. Sure enough, he is a real old man. Qin Feiyang sighed. Mu Tianyang and Hua Yi also nodded. Phew. Elder Yun exhaled, retracted his arm, and looked at the Great Elder. "Great Elder, I have a presumptuous request." "Speak." The Great Elder said. Elder Yun said, "I want to bury her with my own hands." "Okay. After all, she is your disciple." The Great Elder nodded. "Thank you, Great Elder." Elder Yun bowed, then carried Yin Hui's body, turned around, and strode out. Throughout the whole process, he ignored Qin Feiyang and the others, as if he didn't see them. After Elder Yun left, Feng Yuan collapsed on the ground powerlessly, his eyes lifeless, and his whole person seemed to have aged dozens of years. First, Feng Wenhai was expelled from the Nine Heavens Palace, then Feng Zijuan was killed, and then Jin Fatso died because of him. Now, Yin Hui and Jin Yunchang died one after another. In just a few months, his son, daughter-in-law, son-in-law, grandson, and grandson had met with misfortune one after another. The current Feng family could be considered to have declined in the true sense. This blow to him was too great. Looking at Yu Zijie again. Jin Yunchang and Yin Hui died one after another, and at this moment, his heart was completely in despair. Regret and hatred intertwined. Shangguan Fenglan lowered her head to look at Yu Zijie and sighed, "You originally had a great future, but unfortunately, it was all buried in your own hands. I refuse to accept this. Why can you just let it go when a lunatic makes a mistake? And when I make a mistake, you want to kill me?" Yu Zijie suddenly roared. Lunatic did make a lot of mistakes in the past, but he has never killed an elder-level figure. Shangguan Fenglan said. Qingli is just an outer sect elder, and I am second on the heaven leaderboard, the #1 alchemist. Am I not as valuable as him? You want me to die with him? Why? Yu Zijie had already gone crazy. Because if it was any other time, he would never dare to say such words. Although outer sect elders and inner sect elders didn't have high status in the Nine Heavens Palace, they were still elder-level figures. Behind people's backs, you could ignore them, but in front of others, you had to show respect. You really don't have the slightest bit of regret. Shangguan Fenglan shook her head in disappointment, and a strand of divine power flew out, heading straight for Yu Zijie's forehead. Jiang Haotian, you don't want me to live, so I won't let you have it easy. I'll kill you. But at the same time, Yu Zijie roared and charged at Qin Feiyang. Just you. Madman seemed to have expected that Yu Zijie would act out of desperation. He took a step in front of Qin Feiyang and sent him flying with a kick. Bang! Yu Zijie screamed as he flew out and smashed into a stone pillar. Madman, you bastard! Yu Zijia's hair stood up in anger as he ran towards Madman in a sorry state. Pa! But at this moment, the crisp sound of a slap was heard. A white figure appeared in front of Yu Zijia out of thin air and raised his hand to slap Yu Zijia's face. Qin Feiyang was surprised. It was the back of a young man. His figure was quite thin, and his clothes were whiter than snow. His thick black hair draped over his shoulders, and his entire person exuded an ethereal and unfathomable aura. Not good. Madman muttered. What's wrong? Qin Feiyang and the other two looked at him. Madman secretly said, he is the second elder of our 9 Heavens Palace. The second elder is so young. Mu Tianyang was surprised. This is normal. At our level, as long as we are willing, we can always maintain our youthful state. Madman said. Master. Yu Zijia was stunned for a moment, then immediately knelt on the ground and shouted, Master, I don't want to die, save me. Chapter 2143. Shut up. The second elder shouted. His voice was also very young, but it was very stern. The great elder looked at the second elder and said, Second elder, aren't you in closed-door cultivation? You can't wait for me to continue my closed-door cultivation so that you can kill my good-for-nothing disciple. The second elder turned around and looked at the great elder. It was a cold face. The bridge of his nose was high, his facial features were cold, his dark eyes were incomparably sharp, and his 2 sword-like eyebrows emitted a threatening aura. Can't wait? Second elder, this old man doesn't like to hear these words. It's your disciple who made a mistake, why do you say this old man can't wait? The great elder laughed. Don't say such pompous words. Yu Zijia has indeed gone overboard this time, but at most, he can only be considered an accomplice. He doesn't deserve to die. The second elder said indifferently. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows, and secretly thought, he really doesn't hide it at all. He has a high position and power, second only to the great elder. What else does he need to hide? It seems that it's impossible to kill Yu Zijia this time. Mu Tianyang and Hua Yi sighed secretly. At the same time, when Yu Zijia heard the second elder's words, his mind immediately calmed down. Following that, he looked at Qin Feiyang and the others, his face full of pride and provocation, as if to say, see, I have a backer, it's hard to die even if I want to. Madman's eyes flashed as he looked at the second elder. Don't deserve to die. Second elder, according to what you said, Chengli and those 4 disciples deserve to die. The great elder said unhappily. I didn't say that. But since they're already dead, why add more souls to the dead? Besides, haven't Jin Yinchang and Yin Hui already been killed by you? It can be considered as not letting Chengli and the others down. The second elder said. The great elder's eyes darkened, and said, Second elder, this is not something you should say as the second elder of 9 Heavens Palace. Then what do you want me to say? I only have 1 disciple, is it wrong for me to protect him? The second elder said angrily. Shengguan Fenglan frowned, Second elder, aren't you being a bit too unreasonable? Shut up. I'm talking to boss. Who are you to interrupt? Don't you know your place? The second elder scolded mercilessly. How dare you bully my lawn, Hua Yi was burning with rage as he roared, even our 9 Heavens Palace's second elder has to be reasonable, right? The second elder shot an unfriendly glance at Hua Yi and said, Who do you think you are? Shengguan Fenglan saw that the situation was not good and quickly shouted at Hua Yi, You shut up for me. I won't. Hua Yi's temper flared up. He looked at the second elder and said, Although I'm only an ordinary disciple, I at least know that a person should have a bottom line, and also have a bit of conscience. How dare you? The second elder enunciated each word clearly. With a loud bang, a terrifying pressure rushed towards Hua Yi. Shangguan Fenglan's expression changed as she hurriedly stood in front of Hua Yi and cried out, "Second elder, please calm down." However, the second elder turned a deaf ear to him. Pressure surged forth. There was a trace of fear in Shangguan Fenglan's eyes, but she did not retreat. Boom! The pressure blasted behind her. Puff! Shangguan Fenglan's delicate body trembled, and a mouthful of blood suddenly spurted out. Lan Er. Hua Yi was shocked and hurriedly supported Shangguan Fenglan, his face full of concern. "Can you say a few words less? If he's angry and insists on killing you, even I can't stop him." Shangguan Fenglan secretly said. "Good, good, good." Hua Yi nodded repeatedly. Lan Er. When the second elder heard how Hua Yi addressed Shangguan Fenglan, his expression was slightly stunned, and then the corners of his mouth pursed into a playful smile. "Shangguan Fenglan, you're actually playing with a disciple. I knew it, so many people pursued you before, but you didn't agree. It turns out that you like those who are weaker than you, those who are younger than you. An old cow eating young grass, your hobby is not bad." His words were full of ridicule. The other giants also looked at Shangguan Fenglan and Hua Yi with strange expressions. An old cow eating young grass, Hua Yi originally did not intend to interrupt. But when he heard these words, the anger in his heart that had been suppressed with great difficulty rose again. And it was even stronger than before. The great elder's gaze sank slightly, and he said angrily, "Second elder, your words are a bit too much." "Too much? No way. It's just the truth." The second elder laughed. "Damn it. This bastard is really annoying." Qin Feiyang muttered. "So what if I'm annoyed?" Mu Tianyang glanced helplessly, looked at the angry Hua Yi next to him, and said, "Brother Hua, we are not his opponent, don't be impulsive. Watching your beloved woman being humiliated like this, if it were you, would you be able to bear it?" Hua Yi said angrily. "I really can't bear it." Mu Tianyang shook his head and said, "However, you have to bear it even if you can't bear it." Jiang Haotian, Mu Tianyang, frenzy, take Hua Yi in leave immediately. Shangguan Fenglan's voice suddenly sounded in the minds of Qin Feiyang and the other two. "Okay." The three of them nodded. They knew that if they didn't take Hua Yi away, it would definitely become more and more troublesome. The three of them immediately carried Hua Yi and walked outside. Shangguan Fenglan wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth, looked up at the second elder, and said, "Second elder, although Hua Yi is weaker and younger than me, but when it comes to feelings, as long as both sides are in love, it's fine, so please respect me a little." "How am I disrespecting you? Because you are already so old, is it wrong to call you an old cow?" "That's right, isn't it, everyone?" The second elder glanced at the big shots, his face full of ridicule. None of the big shots made a sound. But on their faces, there was a trace of a smile. "Fuck you, you're still pushing your luck." Hua Yi had just been carried to the door by Qin Feiyang and the other two. Hearing the second elder's words, he was immediately furious. "Courting death." The second elder's eyes were cold. "The one courting death is you." Hua Yi roared. "Brother Hua, calm down. Let's talk about it later, let's talk about it later." Qin Feiyang and Mu Tianyang persuaded. Even Madman had been persuading him. If this continued, something big would definitely happen. "Let go of me, I'm going to kill him." How could Hua Yi listen? Especially when he saw Shangguan Fenglan being humiliated in public, his heart couldn't help but go crazy. A murderous intent appeared in the second elder's eyes, and he said to Qin Feiyang and the other two, "Let him go, I want to see how he's going to kill me." "Second elder, please be magnanimous, don't bother with him. We'll take him away immediately." Mu Tianyang said with a flattering smile. The murderous intent in the second elder's eyes grew stronger, and he shouted, "I told you to let him go, didn't you hear me?" Qin Feiyang and the other two froze and quickly let go of Hui Yi. The second elder put his hands behind his back, looked at Hui Yi contemptuously, and said, "Boy, come, I'm standing here, kill me if you have the ability. Brother Hua, don't make a move. He's deliberately provoking you. As long as you make a move, he will have a reason to kill you in front of the great elder." Qin Feiyang and the other two secretly thought. Humph. Forlorn, even if I die, it's worth it. Hua Yi coldly snorted, and walked towards the second elder step by step. Hua Yi. Shangguan Fenglan was also burning with anxiety. Why was this person so stubborn? Second brother, it's just a disciple, is there a need to make such a big fuss? The great elder frowned, and waved his hand, Hua Yi, you can leave. Boss, a mere disciple dares to clamor with me, if I let him leave now, how can I establish myself in the Nine Heavens Palace in the future? The second elder raised his eyebrows. Clamor? All right, then I'll show you my true arrogance. The corner of Hui Yi's mouth lifted. Shwa. Suddenly. He disappeared from everyone's line of sight. Qin Feiyang and Mu Tianyang were shocked. How did he disappear? They didn't catch him at all. How is this possible? Madman muttered. What do you mean? Chapter 2144. When he came back to his senses, the second elder was furious. There was no doubt about it. Killing Yuzijie in front of him, in front of so many people, was not only a provocation to him, but also a humiliation to him. As the second elder of Nine Heavens Palace, how could he tolerate someone being so presumptuous in front of him? Not to mention that the other party was just a small disciple. Boom! A monstrous pressure rushed out of his body like a torrent of beasts and pounced towards Hui Yi. This time, the second elder did not hold back. The terrifying aura made Qin Feiyang and Mu Tianyang despair. But Hui Yi's expression did not change. It was as if he did not put it in his eyes at all. Boom! The pressure enveloped over, but Hui Yi stood under the pressure and his body did not even tremble. It was as if this pressure had no effect on him. How could this be? The second elder's eyes could not help but have a trace of surprise. Shangguan Fenglan was also in disbelief. That look in her eyes felt as if it was the first time she had seen Hui Yi. She did not expect that this young man who usually did not care much would have such a terrifying ability. This elder does not believe that I can't deal with a small disciple like you. Killing intent surged in the second elder's eyes as divine power emerged. Second elder. The great elder hurriedly shouted. He actually used divine power. This was not a child's play. He killed my disciple, he must die today. How could the second elder, who was already drowned in anger, listen? His divine power roared in all directions as he charged towards Hui Yi. The great elder's face sank as he quickly condensed a divine power barrier, enveloping the second elder and Hui Yi. Doing this was to protect the conference hall. He was very clear about the second elder's strength. Although the conference hall had been tempered by divine power, once the second elder was serious, it would definitely be destroyed. Secondly, it was to isolate the movements here so as not to alarm the disciples of Nine Heavens Palace. As for the third point, it was naturally to protect Qin Feiyang and the others. After all, Qin Feiyang and the others were too weak. If they were not protected, they would definitely be affected. This guy suddenly became unfathomable, outside the barrier. Madman looked at Hui Yi standing inside the barrier, his eyes filled with surprise. I knew that his strength wasn't that simple, but I didn't expect it to be so terrifying. Qin Feiyang transmitted his voice. Yeah. This is beyond my imagination. Mu Tianyang nodded. In the blink of an eye. Shenli had already arrived in front of Hui Yi. Wang. Just as Hui Yi was about to be drowned by the divine power, a fiery red divine light suddenly roared out from Hui Yi's body, forming a 5-foot-wide barrier. Boom! The divine power slammed into the barrier. A shocking scene immediately appeared before everyone's eyes. Second Elder's strength was obvious to all. Even Shengguan Fenglan was no match for him. However, at this moment, when his divine power bombarded the barrier formed by Hui, the barrier did not show any signs of cracking. How is this possible? The second elder glared angrily. Within the 5-foot-wide red enchantment, Hui crossed his arms across his chest. As he looked at the second elder, his face was filled with ridicule. Wait! The aura of this barrier, suddenly. Great Elder stood up and stared at the fiery red barrier protecting Hui in surprise. The other giants also seemed to have noticed something. They stood up one after another, their faces filled with surprise. Including Feng Yuan and Shengguan Fenglan. What's going on? Looking at the reaction of these people, Qin Feiyang and Mu Tianyang looked at each other, their eyes filled with suspicion. Then, they looked at Madman. Like Great Elder and the others, he stared straight at the fiery red barrier. Big Brother Jiang, what's going on? Feng Yuan secretly asked. If you don't know, how would I know? Qin Feiyang transmitted his voice, then glanced at Madman and secretly asked, what are you guys doing? The great assembly hall was dead silent. Even the second elder was staring at Hui in bewilderment. And if one looked carefully, one would find that there seemed to be a trace of fear in his eyes. Impossible, how could it be him? Madman finally spoke, but his words were filled with disbelief. Who? Qin Feiyang asked. Vice Palace Master. The aura emitted by that barrier is exactly the same as the aura of our 9 Heavens Palace's Vice Palace Master. Madman said. What? Qin Feiyang and the other two were shocked and looked at Hui in unison. Could he be the Vice Palace Master of 9 Heavens Palace? No. He's not the Vice Palace Master. Because I've seen the Vice Palace Master, their looks are too different. Madman shook his head. If he's not the Vice Palace Master, then why is the barrier he condensed the same aura as the Vice Palace Master? Qin Feiyang secretly said. This is what I can't figure out, and it's probably what Great Elder and the others can't figure out. Madman said. It was also at this moment. Great Elder came back to his senses and shouted, Second Elder, retreat for this old man. Second Elder, who was standing opposite Hui, suddenly quivered and hurriedly retreated to the side. Following closely. Great Elder waved his hand and the barrier protecting the great assembly hall dissipated. Then, he took 2 steps and walked in front of Hui. He cupped his hands and said, May I ask who you are? His tone was also incomparably respectful. Hui glanced at Second Elder and smiled coldly. Without speaking, he took out a jade pendant from the clothes under his neck. The jade pendant was half the size of a baby's fist. It was shaped like a cluster of flames, as if it was cast from magma, shining with a hazy treasure light. Upon seeing this jade pendant, Great Elder and the others' eyes trembled as they hurriedly knelt on one knee on the ground. Second Elder was no exception. And at this moment, his expression was full of fear. This, Qin Feiyang, Mu Tianyang, and Gong Zhongfeng looked at this scene and their eyes almost popped out. It was just a jade pendant, but it actually made all the giants kneel down. This is not an ordinary jade pendant. Madman transmitted his voice. What do you mean? Qin Feiyang was surprised. This is the Vice Palace Master's Palace Master token. In other words, it's the so-called identity token. In our 9 Heavens Palace, there is a clear rule that seeing the Palace Master token is like seeing the Palace Master himself. So no matter who it is, they have to kowtow. Madman secretly said. Palace Master token. Qin Feiyang's heart trembled, but at the same time, he was very confused. Since Hui wasn't the Vice Palace Master, then why would he have the palace master token in his hand? Second elder, now do you know how big of a mistake you have made? Hua Yi sneered. As he spoke, he waved his hand, and the fiery red barrier immediately collapsed. It then turned into a stream of light and entered the palace master token. So that barrier was transformed by the palace master token. Qin Feiyang muttered. When second elder heard Hua Yi's words, his face couldn't help but turn pale. He carefully asked, "May I ask who you are?" Hua Yi put away the palace master token and proudly said, "Your vice palace master is my master. In other words, I am his last disciple." What? Vice palace master's disciple? The group of giants looked at each other. Why haven't they heard of the vice palace master accepting any disciple? What? Are you doubting what I said? Hua Yi angrily said. No, no. The giants hurriedly shook their heads. The great elder got up and looked at Hua Yi with a smile. Since you are the vice palace master's disciple, then you should know where the vice palace master is now, right? Of course I know. But Lord Master has instructed me not to reveal his whereabouts to anyone. Especially you, great elder. Hua Yi smiled playfully. Especially me? The great elder was stunned. Yes. Master said that you, old man, are very annoying. If you know where he is, you will definitely go and bother him every day. Hua Yi said. The corner of the great elder's mouth twitched fiercely, and his expression was full of helplessness. He sighed and said, when will he change his willful character? Hua Yi grinned and quickly ran to Shangguan Fenglan. He smiled and said, Lan, why are you kneeling? Get up quickly. Shangguan Fenglan looked at Hua Yi with a complicated expression, then stood up and stood to the side silently. Hua Yi looked at Shangguan Fenglan in astonishment. Why did she seem more distant than before after revealing her identity? The other giants also got up one after another. Wait. Hua Yi raised his eyebrows and shouted, who told you to get up? The group of giants knelt on the ground again in unison. You old things, it's fine if you don't care about things usually, but at the critical moment, you still can't distinguish right from wrong. I really don't understand, why would Master raise you bunch of good-for-nothings? Hua Yi cursed angrily. The giants were ashamed. However, two of them were incomparably flustered. These two people were the second elder and Feng Yuan. Not to mention the second elder, after all, the previous scene had just happened. And Feng Yuan. Since Qin Feiyang and the others entered the Nine Heavens Palace, he had been secretly playing tricks. In the past, he didn't put Hua Yi in his eyes. He thought that Hua Yi was just a small character who followed Qin Feiyang to eat and drink. However, he didn't expect that Hua Yi was the real boss. So he was worried. Because Hua Yi knew everything he had done before. If Hua Yi told all of this to the deputy palace master, the consequences would be unimaginable. Cough, cough. Looking at the giants in panic, the great elder coughed and whispered, Hua Yi, you're just the deputy palace master's disciple after all. It's not good to let them kneel like this, right? Hua Yi said, you mean, I don't have this authority? N. The great elder nodded. Wrong. Do you know why I had to sneak into the Nine Heavens Palace? Hua Yi said. Why? The great elder was suspicious. Because it's Master's order. Master has long known that there are many restless people in our Nine Heavens Palace. So this time, he asked me to sneak into the Nine Heavens Palace and investigate these people. And he asked me to enforce the law on his behalf. In other words, even if it's you, the great elder, I have the right to punish you. Hua Yi said proudly. Enforce the law on behalf of the deputy palace master. All the big shots felt a chill in their hearts. This was a person who held the power to kill them. Do you have any objections? Hua Yi looked at the great elder and asked. Since it's the Deputy Palace Master's order, this old man will naturally obey and cooperate with you. The Great Elder bowed. Okay. Except for Feng Yuan and the second elder, the rest of you go to the corner over there and reflect on your mistakes. Hua Yi pointed to the left corner of the main hall and shouted. It turned out that the group of high and mighty giants were like little sheep at this moment. They immediately ran to the corner and knelt neatly in front of it. Their hearts were bitter beyond words. Chapter 21:45. However, the second elder and Feng Yuan who were left behind were even more flustered. Hua Yi walked in front of the second elder and said, "You don't know right from wrong, protecting Yuzijie and humiliating Shangguan Fenglan in public. Is this what the second elder of the Nine Heavens Palace should do? You shouldn't." The second elder shook his head. "Then why were you so arrogant before?" Hua Yi said angrily. The second elder hurriedly said, "It's my fault." "What about Yuzijie's death?" Hua Yi teased. "He deserved it." The second elder said without hesitation. "Truth?" Hua Yi asked. "It's truer than real gold." The second elder nodded. "But I'm still very unhappy. You almost killed me just now. Master dotes on me a lot. If he were to know that you're treating me like this, I think." Hua Yi's face was full of playfulness. I'm sorry, I was confused for a moment, I apologize to you." The arrogance from before had completely vanished, leaving only a heart full of fear. Hua Yi coldly snorted, "The one you should apologize to is not me." The second elder was stunned, and quickly looked at Shangguan Fenglan, and said, "Fenglan, I'm sorry, I take back my words from before, please forgive me." Hua Yi shouted, "No sincerity, kowtow." "Yes, yes, yes." The second elder nodded repeatedly, and while kowtowing, he said, "Fenglan, I really didn't mean it just now, please forgive me for my moment of confusion." The dignified second elder is actually kowtowing in front of so many people, it's really embarrassing. Qin Feiyang laughed secretly. He only has himself to blame. Do you think that just because you're the second elder of the Nine Heavens Palace, you can go to heaven? Madman mocked without any concealment. This is called the cycle of karma, good and evil will be repaid. Mu Tianyang laughed. Looking at Shangguan Fenglan again. Seeing the second elder kowtowing to her, she was still a little flattered. Because whether it was status or strength, the second elder was much higher than her. Usually, it was her who respectfully knelt in front of the second elder. And now, the second elder was actually kneeling in front of her, which made it hard for her to adapt. "Lan, don't be afraid. As long as you say the word, I will immediately ask the great elder to cripple him." Hua Yi transmitted his voice. "Cripple him?" Shangguan Fenglan was slightly stunned and looked at Hua Yi. That serious expression didn't seem like he was joking. "Fenglan, please forgive me. I didn't do it on purpose. At that time, I was only spouting nonsense because I was too angry." Second elder's heart was burning with anxiety. Shangguan Fenglan took a deep breath and smiled at second elder. "I'm fine. Thank you." The second elder was overjoyed. Feng Yuan crawled up in a sorry state and quickly ran to the corner. He then knelt there, not daring to breathe loudly. Hua Yi coldly snorted and walked over to Qin Feiyang and the others. He chuckled, "How was it? This brother was awe-inspiring just now, right?" Qin Feiyang and the others rolled their eyes. Hua Yi looked at the three of them in displeasure. "What kind of look is that? Do you believe that I won't punish you for offending your superiors?" Qin Feiyang helplessly shook his head and bowed, "I'm sorry, okay? That's more like it. I'm not the same as before. You have to be more polite and respectful to me." Hua Yi smiled proudly. "You can continue to show off." The three of them secretly despised him. Hua Yi smiled embarrassedly and turned to look at Great Elder. "My identity, please keep it a secret. Understood. Great Elder nodded. Hui said, then can we leave? Of course. Great Elder smiled. Hui retracted his gaze and looked at Qin Feiyang and the others. He smiled and said, let's go. The three of them looked at each other and smiled, then turned and walked out of the hall. Hui walked a few steps and suddenly seemed to think of something. He turned to look at Great Elder and said, the world is still misunderstanding us. Don't forget to clear our name. I'll arrange it later. Great Elder said. Very good. Hui nodded and glanced at Gong Zifeng. What are you still standing there for? Let's go. Yes, yes, yes. Gong Zifeng hurriedly nodded and ran out behind Qin Feiyang and the others. After the group left, Second Elder frowned and said, Boss, I still think it's a bit ridiculous. Actually, this old man also thinks it's a bit unbelievable. Great Elder shook his head. Second Elder was stunned and hurriedly asked, in other words, you're also suspecting his identity? No. This old man has no doubts. I just feel that it's a little hard to accept that the Vice Palace Master suddenly accepted such a disciple. Great Elder said. Second Elder frowned and said in a deep voice, I still don't believe it. We must find the Vice Palace Master as soon as possible to prove this matter. Great Elder said, then tell this old man, where can I find him? Second Elder wanted to say something but stopped, his face full of helplessness. Their Vice Palace Master was like a rootless duckweed. No one knew where he would float to. Great Elder said, actually, there's another person who knows the whereabouts of the Vice Palace Master. Who? Second Elder hurriedly asked. Great Elder looked at Shangguan Fenglan and said, Fenglan's master. Second Elder looked at Shangguan Fenglan and frowned again. Shangguan Fenglan said, don't look at me. I asked Master, but she didn't tell me. That old thing. Second Elder scolded angrily. Great Elder's eyes darkened, and he reprimanded, Second Elder, why don't you know how to restrain yourself? Was the previous lesson not enough? Humph. If he is really the Vice Palace Master's disciple, then I'll take it that I brought this upon myself. But if he isn't, then I'll settle this score with him properly. After Second Elder finished speaking, he flicked his sleeve and instantly disappeared without a trace. Sigh. Why can't they let this old man rest easy? Great Elder returned to his seat and rubbed his forehead, looking rather haggard. Shangguan Fenglan stepped forward, glanced at Feng Yuan and the others, and asked, Great Elder, what should we do with them? Great Elder looked up at the group of giants and said, if they have to kneel, then kneel. It's good for them to reflect on themselves. As for you, I've wronged you just now. It's really fine. Shangguan Fenglan smiled. You're the most obedient and sensible in Jiutian Palace. If they were half as obedient as you, I wouldn't need to personally manage the affairs of Jiutian Palace. Great Elder said helplessly. Capable people do more work. Shangguan Fenglan smiled. Fenglan, to tell you the truth, this old man is also tired. I really don't want to manage it anymore. However, look. Our Vice Pavilion Master is idling around all day long. That bunch of people also know how to be idle all day. If this old man doesn't manage it, Jiutian Palace will be in chaos. But fortunately, there's still you. You have to help this old man more in the future. Great Elder smiled. I will. Shangguan Fenglan nodded. Great Elder smiled in relief and said, then you should think about the candidates for the Enforcement Elder, as well as the candidates for the Inner and Outer Elders. Shangguan Fenglan said, isn't there a lunatic in the inner sect now? The Great Elder was stunned and speechless. You really want him to stay in charge of the inner sect? His personality is not suitable for that. Moreover, the stage of Nine Heavens Palace is not big enough for him. He will leave sooner or later. That makes sense. Shangguan Fenglan nodded. We have to learn from this lesson. In terms of selection, we must be careful. Great Elder reminded. Yes. Shangguan Fenglan respectfully replied. Then go do your work. Great Elder waved his hand. Fenglan will take her leave. Shangguan Fenglan respectfully bowed and turned to leave. Hua Yi, Jiang Haotian, Mu Tianyang, lunatic. Is it because Hua Yi is the Vice Palace Master's disciple that lunatic is so close to them? Great Elder murmured and fell into deep thought. Chapter 2146. St. Peak. N. Look, it's Madman and the others. They actually ran back safe and sound. What's going on? Isn't the evidence conclusive? Could it be that the Great Elder is protecting them again? The return of Qin Feiyang and the others immediately caused a huge uproar in the 10 great St. Peaks. And soon, it spread to the inner and outer sect. Everyone felt that it was inconceivable. But for this, Qin Feiyang and the others turned a deaf ear and went straight into the first cave abode. Qin Feiyang took out the tender of Qin Hai and the tea leaves given to him by the Vice Pavilion Master. While brewing tea, he smiled and said, Hua Yi, your anger for a beauty is so cool. Indeed. At that time, I was stunned. If I were a woman, I would definitely fall in love with you immediately. Mu Tianyang followed. Don't. If you were a woman, you definitely wouldn't be an ordinary stinky one. I don't like you. Hua Yi hurriedly waved his hand with a look of disgust. I said that you're fat, and you're really panting. Mu Tianyang rolled his eyes at him and laughed, but this time, Shangguan Fenglan will definitely be moved by you. Your chance has come. Not necessarily. You guys saw it just now. After knowing my identity, she became a bit distant with me. Hua Yi said with a worried face. Isn't this too sudden? When she recovers, it'll be fine. Speaking of which, you brat hit it really well. You're actually the Vice Palace Master's disciple. While talking, Qin Feiyang also brewed tea and poured it for them one by one. Hua Yi picked up the teacup, glanced at them, put it to his mouth and took a sip, and said, Do you guys really think that I'm the Vice Palace Master's disciple? What do you mean? Qin Feiyang and the other two were stunned. Hua Yi secretly laughed, To tell you the truth, this Palace Master token, I picked it up. Picked it up. The three of them looked at each other. That's right. At that time, I didn't know what this thing was. After I entered the Nine Heavens Palace, I heard from Lan that this is the Vice Palace Master's Palace Master token. Originally, I didn't intend to show it. After all, I picked it up. It's not a legitimate source. But that second elder actually humiliated Lan. How can we tolerate this? So I came up with this idea on the spur of the moment, to pretend to be the Vice Palace Lord's disciple. Hua Yi snickered. Ugh. The three of them were astonished. I'm telling the truth. Believe me. You see, I told you all this in secret, which proves that I'm guilty. Hua Yi transmitted his voice. Who would believe that? Is the Palace Master's token so easy to pick up? If you have the ability, why don't you pick up another one? When you killed Yuzijia, could it be that you picked them up? Nonsense. Qin Feiyang and the other two rolled their eyes at Hua Yi. I'm not joking. I'm just telling you the truth. Hua Yi was speechless. All right. Stop pretending. You won't die. Madman waved his hand impatiently and glanced at Gongzi Feng who was sitting at the side. Gongzi Feng was tasting tea when he felt Madman's gaze. He smiled and asked, Senior brother Madman, what's wrong? Who told you to sit down? Who told you to drink tea? Do you think this matter is over? If it wasn't for you, would we have gone to jail? Madman shouted. Gongzi Feng hurriedly stood up. His face was full of panic. Madman said, although I haven't had much contact with you, you should know my temper. Yes, yes, yes. I've let you all down. I'm guilty. Gongzi Feng nodded repeatedly. You think you can settle it with just an apology? There's no such thing in this world. Although I don't know much about the matter between you and Jiang Haotian, I've heard a lot from them in jail. Jiang Haotian has been very kind to you, but you betrayed him again and again. Who dares to trust someone like you? Madman said. Gongzi Feng said, I'm sorry. I was really confused, wrong. If it wasn't for Jiang Haotian being suspicious, we would have fallen into your hands this time. You even dared to scheme against me. Did you eat dog guts? Madman slammed his palm on the coffee table and shouted. Plop. Gongzi Feng was so frightened that he directly knelt on the ground and begged, Senior brother, spare me. Big brother Jiang, save me. We agreed that after I helped you fight back against Feng Yuan, you would let bygones be bygones. I did say that. Now, I didn't say that I would pursue your responsibility. But I can't represent Senior brother Madman and the others. If they want to pursue the matter, I can't stop them. Qin Feiyang said indifferently. Frankly speaking, he already had the intention to kill this person. Gongzi Feng had a helpless look. Senior brother Madman, he contributed a lot to us being able to escape this time. Why don't we let him go first? In any case, he's now under brother Zhang's control. There's no need to be afraid of him going against us. Hua Yi said with a smile. Madman was silent. There's still some value in keeping him alive. After all, Feng Wenhai and Feng Yuan haven't been eliminated yet. Hua Yi said. Gongzi Feng nodded and said, yes, 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 I can help you. Help? Are you joking? This time, you changed sides at the last minute. I'm afraid Feng Yuan already hates you to the core. You still dare to go back? Madman sneered. Why wouldn't I dare? Now that I have a relationship with senior brother Hua Yi, even if I walk in front of them openly, they won't dare to make a move against me. Maybe they will even worship me like an ancestor. Gongzi Feng said. That's true. Qin Feiyang nodded. Although Gongzi Feng had killed Yin Hui and Jin Yunchang this time and would definitely arouse the anger of Feng Yuan and Feng Wenhai, Hua Yi was the disciple of the Vice Palace Master. With this relationship, even if they wanted to kill Gongzi Feng, they could only endure it. Madman frowned and looked at Mu Tianyang, asking, Mu Tianyang, what do you think? It doesn't matter. Anyway, he's just a small fry that can be crushed at any time. Mu Tianyang said indifferently. The contempt in his voice was undisguised. However, not only did Gongzi Feng not feel that Mu Tianyang was humiliating him, he even climbed up the bamboo pole and said, yes, 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 I'm just a small fry. To you, I'm not a threat at all. All right. Then this daddy will keep your dog life first. Scram immediately. Madman said. Yes. Gongzi Feng hurriedly got up and ran out in fear, afraid that Madman would regret it. Outside. A large number of disciples rushed over and gathered outside the first sacred peak, discussing. Great Elder must be protecting them in this matter. On what basis? Shouldn't they be punished for making a mistake? If everyone is like them, how can Nine Heavens Palace be fair? Everyone was dissatisfied. Look. It's Gongzi Feng. Gongzi Feng, you should know how Jiang Haotian and the others escaped, right? Tell us quickly. As soon as Gongzi Feng left the cave, he was blocked by everyone. Scram. Gongzi Feng was already angry. Seeing these people talking at once, he naturally didn't have a good expression. Gongzi Feng, what's with your attitude? Although you're Feng Wenhai's son, we're still your senior brothers and sisters, right? Everyone was dissatisfied. Gongzi Feng's face sank. Swish. Suddenly. A woman in a black dress descended on the first sacred peak. She glanced at the chaotic crowd below and shouted, "Quiet, I have something to announce." Everyone looked up. "Isn't that Wang Yun? I heard that she has already entered the law enforcement hall, and it was Hall Master Shangguan who personally recruited her. I'm so envious." Wang Yun had worked in the resource hall for many years, so the disciples of Nine Heavens Palace naturally knew her. Wang Yun glanced at the crowd and said loudly, "Under the orders of the Hall Master, I specially came to announce that Jiang Haotian and the others killed Qing Li and the others. It was Yu Zijie, Yin Hui, and Jin Yinchang who jointly framed them." "What? It's actually a framing?" Everyone was dumbfounded. This matter was personally investigated by the first elder, second elder, and the various heads. There's no falsehood or cover-up. As for Yu Zijie, Yin Hui, and Jin Yinchang, they killed Elder Cheng, harmed their fellow disciples, and slandered the innocent disciples. They have already been executed. So, please don't criticize anymore. After Wang Yun finished speaking, she turned into a stream of light and flew towards the stairway to heaven. Because this matter had to be announced to the world. Executed? That means Yu Zijie, Yin Hui, and Jin Yinchang have already been killed. How is that possible? Yin Hui is the law enforcement elder, and Yu Zijie is the disciple of the second elder. How can the first elder bear to kill such people? Regarding Wang Yun's announcement, many people did not dare to believe it. Soon. There was also a notice outside the 4 city gates of Heavenly Dragon City. On the notice was the evil deeds of Yin Hui and the others. I told you, Jiang Haotian is definitely not such a person. You didn't believe me and insisted that he's a hypocrite. Do you see it now? It's all Yin Hui, Jin Yinchang, and Yu Zijie's fault. Bastards! What does the Feng family want? Last time, Feng Wenhai framed Jiang Haotian, and now Yin Hui came out to cause trouble. Is there no end to it? If it were up to me, this Feng clan should be slaughtered, old and young, to prevent them from coming out to harm others. Those who knew the truth were filled with righteous indignation. 1 spread to 10, and 10 spread to 100. Soon, it spread to the entire Sky Dragon City, and then to the entire North region at an unstoppable speed. Finally, Qin Feiyang and the others regained their innocence. As for the Feng family, there were already endless curses, and now it was out of control. Feng Wenhai's home in Sky Dragon City was blocked, and the insults were endless. Some people even threw feces inside. Feng Wenhai hid in his home, and did not even dare to open the door. He could not enter the Empyrean Palace, so he did not know why this happened. Wasn't the plan perfect? Hadn't Jiang Haotian and the others been thrown into prison? But why were the people who were killed now Jin Yinchang, Yin Hui, and Yu Zijie? What had happened in the middle? What are you doing? Suddenly, a cold shout sounded. Feng Zihan appeared in the sky above the courtyard, looking angrily at the crowd gathered around the courtyard. What are we doing? You still have the face to ask. It's not the first time the Feng family has framed Jiang Haotian. What did he do wrong? Why did you treat him so cruelly? Your father is not a good person, and I didn't expect your mother to be a scum too. I'm afraid even you are an accomplice. It's true that people of the same family will not enter the same door. The Feng family is indeed a nest of snakes and rats. The crowd cursed without restraint. Feng Zihan was so angry that her delicate body trembled, but she knew that she could not be angry now. Because the anger of the people was the most terrifying. If she was angry now, it would be difficult to clean up later. You don't need to worry about what kind of people the Feng family is. Feng Zihan said gloomily, and disappeared from the pavilion without looking back. Chapter 2147. You still dare to be arrogant with us? Smash, smash it. Chase them out of Sky Dragon City. Everyone was furious, they picked up the stones and threw them at the courtyard. Not long later, the courtyard was completely unrecognizable, and was extremely chaotic. Inside the house, Feng Wenhai stood in front of the window, looking at the scene through the gap, his hands tightly clenched together. Father! Feng Zihan appeared behind him. Feng Wenhai said angrily, "What exactly is going on?" Feng Zihan said, "As far as I know, it was young noble Feng who betrayed us. That damned little bastard. I told you, he can't be trusted, but you just had to believe him, now look at it." Feng Wenhai roared. At this point, is there any point in saying all this? Feng Zihan sighed. Feng Wenhai asked, "Where's your mother?" "Dead. They're all dead." Feng Zihan lowered his head as he spoke, his brow filled with sorrow that could not be dissolved. "She's really dead." Feng Wenhai's face turned pale, and his body swayed. Feng Zihan immediately went forward and supported Feng Wenhai. "Then where's her body?" Feng Wenhai asked. "It was taken away by Elder Yun." Feng Zihan said. Feng Wenhai muttered, in extreme pain, "Is your grandfather okay?" "Not good. He's still kneeling in the discussion hall." Feng Zihan shook his head. "Why is this happening? Even if young noble Feng betrayed us, with Elder Yun and your grandfather's relationship, your mother wouldn't have been killed, right?" Feng Wenhai shouted. Feng Zihan said, "What exactly happened?" "I'm not sure either. The great clan elder had ordered Hui's identity to be kept a secret, so no one dared to speak of it." Feng Wenhai, "You crazy bastard, get out of Sky Dragon City." "Yes. Our Sky Dragon City can't tolerate scum like you." The curses outside continued. Rocks smashed into the courtyard, creating loud bangs. "These bastards, they're going too far." The furious Feng Wenhai immediately had a trace of hostility between his eyebrows. Feng Zihan immediately grabbed Feng Wenhai, and said, "Father, don't be rash, you can't go out now. They've already bullied us at our doorstep, and you're still telling me not to go out. How am I supposed to face anyone in the future?" Feng Wenhai shouted. "Father!" Feng Zihan immediately shouted coldly, "Don't you understand the current situation? Our Feng clan is now a target of scorn." Feng Wenhai said, "If I were still an enforcement hall elder, would they dare to be so arrogant? The point is, you are no longer one. Indeed, I cannot stay in Heavenly Dragon City any longer." Feng Zihan thought for a while and looked at Feng Wenhai. "Father, when I was at Longquan Mountain, I learned the profound meaning of becoming a god and built a small courtyard. You can go there and hide for a while." After that, he sent the coordinates to Feng Wenhai. "I'm not leaving. I don't believe that they would dare to kill me in broad daylight," Feng Wenhai said. But before he could finish his words, there was a poochie sound. Sharp arrows pierced through the windows and shot all over the room. Feng Zihan hurriedly brought Feng Wenhai away and said solemnly, "Did you see that? These people are completely crazy now. They're capable of doing anything. Bastard, bastard. I will kill them sooner or later." Feng Wenhai was infuriated. "Let's go," Feng Zihan said. Feng Wenhai's face was filled with unwillingness. "You must find young Master Feng for me. I will kill him with my own hands." "I will." Feng Zihan nodded. "And your mother? Go find Elder Yun. She is a member of our Feng clan. We cannot let her wander outside," Feng Wenhai said. "N." Feng Zihan nodded again. Feng Wenhai said again, "Tell me immediately if there is a situation." "Okay." Feng Zihan replied. "Jiang Haotian, just you wait. Everything you have brought to me today, I will return it to you tenfold, 100-fold. Feng Wenhai's face was filled with hatred as he opened an altar and quickly left. Sigh. Feng Zihan looked at the battered building and let out a long sigh before opening an altar and leaving as well. Smash, smash with all your might. We must chase them out of Heavenly Dragon City. The people outside were getting crazier and crazier, and had already broken in. Just after Feng Zihan left, another figure appeared in the building. It was young Master Feng. Looking at the devastated room and the angry crowd outside, his expression was incomparably complicated. Following that, he did not stay, opening an altar and disappearing. At the same time, Treasure Pavilion. Shangguan Qiu sat in front of the desk. A guard stood respectfully in front of her, reporting the contents of the notice. Phew. After listening, Shangguan Qiu let out a long breath, shook her head and smiled. I was worried for nothing. Steward. Why do you care so much about this Jiang Haotian? Could it be that the rumors are true, that you two are lovers? The guard looked at Shangguan Qiu suspiciously. Lovers? Shangguan Qiu was stunned and frowned. There is such a rumor. N. The guard nodded. Shangguan Qiu smiled helplessly and did not explain. She waved to the guard and said, You may leave. Yes. The guard responded respectfully and turned to leave. Lovers, Shangguan Qiu murmured, shook her head and sighed. Rumors are really fearful. Compared to the chaos outside, the cave abode number 1 of the first sacred peak was exceptionally peaceful. Qin Feiyang and the other 3 sat in the cave abode, drinking tea and chatting, looking extremely comfortable. Mu Tianyang smiled and said, Guess what will happen to the Feng family this time? It won't end well anyway. Hua Yi said. Buzz. Before he finished speaking, Qin Feiyang's image crystal rang. Qin Feiyang took it out, and Gong Zifeng's image immediately appeared. What's wrong? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. Gong Zifeng said, I just went to the Feng family, and Feng Wenhai is no longer there. No longer there. The 4 of them were stunned. N. There are many people outside. Listening to their scolding, Feng Wenhai should have been driven away by them. Gong Zifeng said. Huh, Mu Tianyang could not help but laugh. How pitiful. Madman sighed. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed slightly as he looked at Gong Zifeng and asked, Then do you know where he might have gone? I'm not sure about that. Gong Zifeng shook his head. Qin Feiyang said, You must find him and inform me immediately. Yes. Gong Zifeng nodded. Qin Feiyang turned off the image crystal and looked at Mu Tianyang with a smile, This Feng Wenhai, it's time to get rid of him. I knew you didn't have good intentions when you asked about Feng Wenhai's whereabouts. But now, do we have the strength to do so? Mu Tianyang said. Qin Feiyang turned to look at Madman and asked, Senior brother Madman, what is Feng Wenhai's cultivation level? As a former law enforcement elder, how can his strength be weak? He's even stronger than me. Madman said. Mu Tianyang's heart trembled as he said in a deep voice, Then this is really not easy to deal with. What are you afraid of? Don't forget, we still have a heaven-defying divine artifact. Qin Feiyang sneered. That's true. Mu Tianyang was stunned for a moment before he smiled. But you. Do you want to remove Feng Wenhai's control over you now? Qin Feiyang looked at Mu Tianyang and asked. Not now. Mu Tianyang waved his hand. Brother Mu, are you crazy? You've caused him so much trouble this time, aren't you afraid that he will take revenge on you? Hua Yi said in shock. You're the Vice Palace Master's disciple. With you backing me, how would he dare to take revenge on me? Besides, Yin Hui, Jin Yinchang, Jin Fatso, and Feng Zijuan were killed one after another. Feng Wenhai was expelled from Empyrean Palace. Guyong also betrayed him. Now, only Feng Zihan is left. But Feng Zihan also needs to cultivate. In other words, there's no one by his side to talk to. So, he will definitely not make a move against me. On the contrary, he might care more about me than before. Mu Tianyang smiled. Qin Feiyang asked suspiciously, "Are you planning something again?" "What plan? Isn't it just going to the Sky Dragon Sea?" "Although these things have happened, we still have to go to the Sky Dragon Sea," Mu Tianyang said. Qin Feiyang nodded. Sky Dragon Sea. Hua Yi was stunned and looked at the two suspiciously. "Why are you going to the Sky Dragon Sea? Why didn't I know in advance?" Mu Tianyang said, "We didn't plan to call you, is there a need for you to know?" "Fuck. Are we still buddies?" Hua Yi said angrily. "These are two different things. We're going to the Sky Dragon Sea because of personal matters, and we don't want to implicate you." Qin Feiyang smiled. "What you said is dignified, but there must be a conspiracy in the dark." Hua Yi sneered. Qin Feiyang and Mu Tianyang looked at each other and couldn't help but smile bitterly. The next day. Morning. Qin Feiyang trio went to the resource hall to work as usual. As for Lunatic, when he left last night, he actually told Qin Feiyang trio that he was going to cultivate in seclusion. This made the three of them stunned for a long time. But thinking about it, it made sense. He had already wasted 7,000 to 8,000 years of time, and it was indeed time to go into seclusion to cultivate. "Junior brother Jiang, junior brother Mu, junior brother Hua, I'm really sorry, I misunderstood you 2 days ago. Yeah. I never thought that this was actually Yu Zijie, Yin Hui, and Jin Yinchang's conspiracy. You guys have been wronged." When Qin Feiyang trio entered the resource hall, the other people in the resource hall immediately rushed up and said with an apologetic face, "It's all in the past, it's okay." Qin Feiyang smiled. Hearing this, the others breathed a sigh of relief. After all, they all worked in the resource hall and would see each other frequently. They were afraid that Qin Feiyang trio would be unhappy. One of the young men asked, "Then how are you guys doing in the prison?" Qin Feiyang trio looked at each other and smiled. Hua Yi smiled and said, "The treatment in the prison is really good, more comfortable than outside. If there's a chance, you guys can also try it." More comfortable than outside? The few of them looked at each other. Was he talking in his sleep? Which disciple of the Nine Heavens Palace didn't know that the law enforcement hall's prison was 18 levels of hell? Even if they could come out alive, they would lose a layer of skin. Let them try it too. Wasn't this asking them to court death? Sure enough, they were not on the same level as these three. Chapter 2148. Qin Feiyang glanced at the second floor and asked in a low voice, "Is the palace master upstairs?" "No." They shook their heads. Qin Feiyang nodded thoughtfully, then smiled and said, "Let's get back to work." After they dispersed, Qin Feiyang and the other two also sat down at their respective positions. Qin Feiyang sorted out the account book and asked secretly, "Mu Tianyang, it's been so long, is there any news about the vein of soul?" "No. I didn't dare to deliberately mention the vein of soul, afraid that Feng Yuan would notice something. So I've been looking for an opportunity." Mu Tianyang secretly said. "You're right to be concerned. But we have to hurry." Qin Feiyang said. "Understood." Mu Tianyang responded. An entire day passed, but Feng Yuan still didn't come to the resource hall. Qin Feiyang and the other two's work had finished. Mu Tianyang frowned and said, "Is he still kneeling in the assembly hall?" "I don't know." Qin Feiyang shook his head. Hua Yi secretly said, "Why don't we go to the assembly hall to take a look? Is the assembly hall a place where we can go as we please?" Qin Feiyang immediately rolled his eyes at him. "That's not right. We can't go there." "But Brother Hua, no one dares to stop you now. Mu Tianyang secretly laughed. Qin Feiyang was taken aback and said with a smile, "That's true, after all, things are different now. Why do I feel so awkward? Are you guys making fun of me?" Hua Yi frowned. "No, no, you're the disciple of the deputy palace master, we can't afford to offend you." Qin Feiyang laughed and said. "I've already said, I'm a fake. Forget it. I'm not going to talk nonsense with you guys, I'm going to find Lan, a day without seeing her is like 3 years." Hua Yi chuckled and then disappeared like a wisp of smoke. "There's no humanity when there's a opposite sex," Mu Tianyang said in disdain. "You're just jealous, aren't you?" Qin Feiyang said. "What am I jealous of?" Mu Tianyang was filled with disdain. Qin Feiyang looked at him and sighed, "Shen Mei's death is indeed a pity, but you can't always live in the past." But as soon as his voice fell, Qin Feiyang felt the change in Mu Tianyang's eyes. "Don't mention her in front of me in the future, because it will remind me of my hatred for you," Mu Tianyang said with a gloomy voice, then transformed into a beam of light and disappeared without looking back. Alas! Looking at Mu Tianyang's back, Qin Feiyang couldn't help but let out a long sigh. He also went straight back to his cave and went into seclusion to cultivate. Over the next few days, Feng Yuan did not appear. Hua Yi also learned from Shengguan Fenglan that Feng Yuan and a group of big shots had already left the great meeting hall that night. If he wasn't in the conference hall, nor did he come to the resource hall, then where was he now? Wait a minute. Was he with Feng Wenhai? Just as Qin Feiyang was lost in his thoughts, he suddenly felt an ice-cold gaze. Qin Feiyang looked up and saw a red-haired old man standing at the door, staring at him gloomily. It was Feng Yuan. "Greetings, Palace Master." The others quickly noticed Feng Yuan and hurriedly got up to salute. Feng Yuan turned a deaf ear to them. He glanced at Qin Feiyang and Hua Yi, then looked at Mu Tianyang and said, "Come up." After that, he went to the second floor without looking back. The palace master doesn't seem to be in a good mood. Isn't that nonsense? Yin Hui and Jin Yinchang did this kind of thing, how could he be happy? Several disciples whispered. Hua Yi secretly said, "Brother Mu, be careful. If there's anything, just shout. We'll go up to support you at any time." Qin Feiyang also secretly said. Mu Tianyang smiled. Second floor. In the lounge. Feng Yuan sat in front of the tea table with a gloomy face. Mu Tianyang swaggered in and closed the door behind him. He did not salute, nor did he have the respect from before, and directly sat down opposite Feng Yuan. Seeing this, Feng Yuan raised his eyebrows and said, "Did this old man ask you to sit?" Mu Tianyang said indifferently, "Isn't this chair for people to sit on? Otherwise, it would look good." Pa! Feng Yuan immediately slammed his palm on the tea table and shouted, "With Hua Yi backing you up, you're being impudent." "Yes. I'm being impudent. What's wrong?" Mu Tianyang's face was full of provocation. Feng Yuan said sternly, "Don't forget, your little life is still in this old man's hands. Then why don't you kill me? Do you dare?" Mu Tianyang sneered. Feng Yuan clenched his hands, his eyes as sharp as a blade. "Don't stare at me like that, you asked for it. Originally, I really wanted to help you get rid of Jiang Haotian, but what about you? You're actually trying to frame me. If it weren't for Jiang Haotian's resourcefulness, I would have died in your hands this time." Mu Tianyang said. "What a joke. You dare to say that Feng Zijuan was not killed by you and Jiang Haotian?" Feng Yuan shouted. "You even believe Gongzi Feng's words, you're really stupid. Let me tell you the truth, Gongzi Feng has already surrendered to Jiang Haotian." Mu Tianyang sneered. "What? Surrendered to Jiang Haotian long ago?" Feng Yuan was shocked. "Is it strange? Jiang Haotian is a very good schemer. He knows that it's not easy to deal with you. After all, your strength is too strong, so he bribed Gongzi Feng and made him his spy. Mu Tianyang said. Damn it! Why didn't you tell me earlier? Feng Yuan said angrily. I'm sorry. I only heard this from Jiang Haotian when I was in prison. Besides, this matter has nothing to do with you framing me. Tell me the truth. I'm so loyal to you, but you want to harm me. A person like you is really not worthy of serving. Mu Tianyang shook his head. Feng Yuan fell silent. Mu Tianyang got up and said, Is there anything else? If there's nothing else, I'll go to work. Sit down. Feng Yuan said. Didn't you not let me sit just now? Mu Tianyang said with a playful smile. I told you to sit down. Feng Yuan said word by word, already on the verge of exploding in anger. Okay. Mu Tianyang nodded and returned to his seat, saying, Go ahead, I'll listen. Feng Yuan asked, When did you know Hui's identity? Mu Tianyang said, The same as you. What about Jiang Haotian and Frenzy? Feng Yuan asked. Mu Tianyang said, I only found out when I was in the Great Council Hall. Feng Yuan frowned and said, You have such a good relationship with him, have you asked him in private if he is the disciple of the Vice Palace Master? How can this be fake? The Vice Palace Master is such a powerful existence, who would have the guts to pretend to be his disciple? Mu Tianyang was speechless. That makes sense. Feng Yuan nodded, pondered for a while, and said, Then did Hui tell the Vice Palace Master what I did to Jiang Haotian? Mu Tianyang said, Didn't he say it in the Great Council Hall? Not yet. Feng Yuan said, That's just polite words. Mu Tianyang said, We asked in private, but we really haven't told the Vice Palace Master yet. Feng Yuan breathed a sigh of relief. But immediately after, a wisp of killing intent appeared in his old eyes. Mu Tianyang's pupils contracted. Could it be that he wanted to kill Hui? Wanted to silence him? This old thing is too crazy. One had to know that Hui was the disciple of the Vice Palace Master. Killing Hui would anger the Vice Palace Master. But thinking about it, it didn't seem to be a big deal. Thinking back, this old thing even dared to kill the Great Elder's own son, let alone Hui, a disciple who had no blood relationship with him. Feng Yuan was silent for a moment, then looked at Mu Tianyang and said, Help this old man do something. After it is done, not only will this old man remove my control over you, but I will also officially train you as the next hall master of the resource hall. Mu Tianyang said, If you want to silence Hui, then there's no need to talk about it. Feng Yuan was slightly taken aback, frowning, You actually guessed it. Who do you think you can hide your thoughts from? Mu Tianyang said indifferently. Fine. This old man admits that this old man wants you to kill him to silence him. If you think this old man's conditions are not enough, feel free to speak. Feng Yuan said. Really? Mu Tianyang asked. N. Feng Yuan nodded. Mu Tianyang pondered for a moment and said, I want to know where the Nine Heavens Palace's soul vein is. N. Feng Yuan was taken aback and asked suspiciously, Why are you asking about the soul vein? Since entering Nine Heavens Palace, I have always heard that our Nine Heavens Palace's soul vein occupies half of the entire northern territory. I want to know if this is true. And I have never seen a real soul vein, so I am very curious. Of course, this is an additional condition. What I want the most is a spatial divine object. Mu Tianyang said. In this way, Feng Yuan would not be suspicious. Spatial divine object? That's very simple. Not to mention one, this old man can find 10 spatial divine objects for you. Feng Yuan smiled confidently. Qin Feiyang said, Don't be so confident. I am talking about a spatial divine object with a time array. What? Feng Yuan suddenly stood up. I know, this is a little hard for you to accept. But compared to this kind of worldly possession, your life is the most important. If Hui really tells the Vice Palace Master what you have done during this period of time, do you think you will still have a way to live? I am afraid not only you, but even Feng Zihan will be implicated. Mu Tianyang said playfully. Feng Yuan's eyes sank and said, don't think that you can beat this old man just because you have some chips in your hand. This old man doesn't need your help. If I want to kill Hui, I still have a way. Then go. Let me tell you, Hui and Jiang Haotian have already guessed that you might kill them to silence them, so they are always on guard against you. Mu Tianyang said. Already guessed. Feng Yuan raised his eyebrows. How about it? Are you willing to give up your wealth or your life? Don't tell me you can't find a spatial divine object with a time array. No one will believe this kind of nonsense. Mu Tianyang said. Feng Yuan was silent. I won't disturb you for now. You can think about it by yourself. Mu Tianyang said, then got up and walked towards the door. Wait. Feng Yuan said. The corner of Mu Tianyang's mouth lifted, then he turned to look at Feng Yuan. Feng Yuan said, this old man can indeed find such a spatial divine object, but I will give it to you after the matter is done. Impossible. After the matter is done, what value do I have? At that time, I am afraid I will become the target of your silencing. I won't do this kind of loss-making business. Mu Tianyang shook his head. Chapter 2149. Feng Yuan frowned and said, but if I give it to you first, how can I believe that you won't betray me? Wait. Have you gone senile? My life is now in your hands, and you're still afraid that I'll betray you? Mu Tianyang was stunned. Feng Yuan was stunned when he heard that. That's right, this person was now under his control. No matter how bold he was, he wouldn't dare to betray him. Why don't I give it to him first and kill him after the matter is done? At that time, won't the spatial divine item come back? In other words, it was only for him to temporarily keep it. No matter what the result was, this person had to die. Thinking of this, Feng Yuan didn't hesitate anymore. As he waved his hand, a golden palace appeared out of thin air. Mu Tianyang stared at the palace, his eyes shining. The palace was the size of a palm and only had one floor. It seemed to be made of gold and shone brightly. Feng Yuan said, this thing is called the Golden Crow Temple. It can be big or small, and there is a time array inside. Golden Crow Temple, Mu Tianyang muttered and asked, how many days is one day? Feng Yuan said, 1 day is half a year. Half a year. Mu Tianyang frowned and couldn't help but feel disappointed. In Qin Feiyang's castle, 1 day was equivalent to 1 year. In the Golden Crow Temple, 1 day was equivalent to half a year, which was double. If this continued, the gap between him and Qin Feiyang would grow bigger and bigger. But it was better than nothing. Although it couldn't compare to Qin Feiyang's castle, it was better than the Crimson Gold Divine Tower. Forget it, I'll reluctantly accept it. Mu Tianyang comforted himself. This old man can give you the Golden Crow Temple, but you must remember not to let anyone know about it, let alone let anyone see it. Especially our 9 Heavens Palace's Great Elder. Otherwise, this divine item will bring you a fatal disaster. Feng Yuan warned with a serious expression. So serious? Mu Tianyang was bewildered. Feng Yuan said in a deep voice, it's more serious than what I said. Once the Golden Crow Temple is exposed, you will die for sure. Mu Tianyang's eyes flickered. Especially the Great Elder? Why did Feng Yuan say that? Could it be that the Golden Crow Temple had something to do with the First Elder? Wait a minute. First elder's son was killed by Feng Yuan. Could it be, the original owner of the Golden Crow Temple was the great elder's son? At the thought of this, Mu Tianyang suddenly felt that the Golden Crow Temple was like a hot potato. However, he didn't care either. So what if he was the first elder's son? As long as it was in his hands, no one could take it back. Mu Tianyang stepped forward, grabbed the Golden Crow Temple, and dripped his blood on it to claim ownership. At the same time, Feng Yuan erased the blood contract inside. Very soon. Master recognition complete. Mu Tianyang played with it for a while, then put it away. Feng Yuan said, "I've already given you the item. Now, tell me your plan." "It's still the original plan. But this time, I have to add Hui. Mu Tianyang laughed. Feng Yuan said, "Can you get rid of Madman for this old man as well?" "Get rid of Madman? You must be joking. Madman is a half-step supreme god, and he is currently in closed-door cultivation. How can I call him?" Mu Tianyang said. Feng Yuan laughed, "I believe you will have a way." This, Mu Tianyang pondered for a while, and sighed, "All right, I'll try my best, but I can't guarantee that I can do it." Feng Yuan nodded. Mu Tianyang asked, "Then I'll go and arrange it." "The sooner the better." Feng Yuan said. "All right, I'll bring them into the Sky Dragon Sea tomorrow, wait for my good news." Mu Tianyang smiled, then turned and left. "I'll let you be proud for a while." Feng Yuan looked at Mu Tianyang's back view, and secretly sneered. First floor. Seeing Mu Tianyang come down with a happy face, Qin Feiyang and Hui looked at each other, and thought, seems like something good happened. Of course. Everything is as I expected. Mu Tianyang smiled proudly, and thought, do you know the Golden Crow Temple? Golden Crow Temple. Qin Feiyang was stunned, and shook his head, I don't know. What is it? Hui looked at Mu Tianyang curiously. A spatial divine object. And it's a spatial divine object with a time array. Feng Yuan gave it to me. The rules of time, 1 day is equal to half a year. Mu Tianyang thought. Damn. You're taking advantage of me. No, everyone has a share. Hui was shocked. How do we split it? Split it in half for you, half for me. Mu Tianyang rolled his eyes. That works too. Hui nodded. Get lost. Mu Tianyang glared at him. Qin Feiyang frowned, and thought, things aren't that simple. Is there a need to think about it? He paid such a huge price, he must have an ulterior motive. Mu Tianyang sighed. What ulterior motive? Hui was suspicious. Mu Tianyang said, he asked me to kill you and Frenzy. This old thing still doesn't know how to stop. Hui cursed. He also wants to stop, but he doesn't dare. You're a ticking time bomb, sooner or later you'll crush him to pieces, how can he not think of a way to get rid of you? I also agreed. Tomorrow, we'll leave for the Sky Dragon Sea. And he also promised me that after the matter is done, he will tell me the location of the Soul Vein. Mu Tianyang thought. Soul Vein, Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed, but suddenly he seemed to have thought of something, and glanced at Hui. Why are you looking at me? Hui was puzzled. Qin Feiyang said, you're the disciple of the Vice Palace Master, you won't report us, right? I already said that I'm an imposter, why don't you believe me? Soul Vein, is it? Don't worry, when the time comes, we'll take action together and not leave a single one of them. Hui said domineeringly. Qin Feiyang and Mu Tianyang looked at each other and asked, you're not acting with us, right? My mood, we've been together for so long, I basically know what you guys have done. If I'm really the disciple of the Vice Palace Master, you guys would have been finished long ago. How can you stand here so easily and talk to me? Hua Yi looked helpless. Qin Feiyang thought, Mu Tianyang, he can't really be an imposter, right? Don't be careless, this person is unfathomable, it's better to be careful. Mu Tianyang transmitted his voice. Qin Feiyang nodded without leaving a trace. Mu Tianyang thought again, by the way, when you have time, ask the Vice Palace Master if he knows about the Golden Crow Temple. Why ask him? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. You'll understand when you ask. The question now is Frenzy willing to go to the Sky Dragon Sea? Mu Tianyang thought. This question, why don't we let Hua Yi go? After all, his face is bigger than ours now. Qin Feiyang said. Yes. The identity of the Vice Palace Master's disciple can't be wasted in vain. Mu Tianyang patted his head and then looked at Hua Yi. Qin Feiyang also looked at Hua Yi again. Why are you looking at me again? Hua Yi was very depressed. The two smiled and secretly said, there's something I need your help with, at night. The waning moon hung in the sky, decorated with cold stars. St. Peak. Inside the first cave abode. Qin Feiyang stood on the ground and looked at a shadow in the void in front of him. He cupped his hands and said, Greetings, old senior. It was an old man. He held a walking stick in his hand and had a kind face. Little friend, this old man has already heard about what happened a few days ago. This time, you have survived a great disaster and will definitely have good fortune in the future. The old man was the Vice Palace Master of the Treasure Pavilion. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, Thank you, old senior, for your auspicious words. The Vice Palace Master asked, Little friend, are you looking for this old man for any medicinal herbs? That's not it. This junior's message is to ask old senior if you know of a spatial divine object called the Golden Crow Temple. Qin Feiyang said. Golden Crow Temple. As soon as the Vice Palace Master heard these 4 words, his expression and tone changed, bringing with it a sharp edge that could penetrate one's heart. Qin Feiyang said, It seems that old senior knows about this Golden Crow Temple. How do you know about the Golden Crow Temple? The Vice Palace Master asked. I just found out today. Old senior, may I ask what the origin of this Golden Crow Temple is? Qin Feiyang said. The Vice Palace Master pondered for a long time and sighed, the owner of the Golden Crow Temple is the Great Elder's son. What? It's actually him. Qin Feiyang was shocked. Could it be that Mu Tianyang would say that he would understand after asking the Vice Palace Master? It's just that back then, after the Great Elder's son died, the Golden Crow Temple disappeared. This old man still remembers that the Grand Elder came to question this old man if it was this old man who snatched the Golden Crow Shrine away. But I really didn't. I also personally went to the Sky Dragon Sea to look for it, but I found nothing. The Vice Palace Master sighed. I see. Qin Feiyang nodded in realization. The Vice Palace Master said in surprise, Little friend, you suddenly mentioned the Golden Crow Temple. Do you have news about the Golden Crow Temple? Qin Feiyang said with a smile, the Golden Crow Temple has always been in Feng Yuan's hands. What? In his hands? The Vice Palace Master was originally sitting in the armchair, but after hearing Qin Feiyang's words, he immediately stood up and his eyes flashed with a cold light. Yes. However, just this morning, he gave the Golden Crow Temple to Mu Tianyang. Qin Feiyang said. To Mu Tianyang. He's willing to give up such a precious space divine item. The Vice Palace Master was surprised. There's a reason behind it. As for the reason, it's not convenient for me to reveal it now. Please forgive me. Qin Feiyang said. It's fine. I won't force you to answer a question that you don't want to answer. The Vice Palace Master waved his hand and returned to his seat. He lowered his head and pondered for a while, then said, So, what you said to me back then was true. It was true from the beginning. Of course, I also know that you won't believe it easily. After all, it's just my words, and there's no evidence. However, the appearance of the Golden Crow Temple has undoubtedly confirmed this point. Qin Feiyang said with a smile. This Feng Yuan is really bold. Chapter 2150. Qin Feiyang hurriedly said, Senior, please calm down. I didn't believe you before because I didn't have evidence, but now that the evidence is irrefutable, how can I not be angry? This crippled leg, and all the grievances I've suffered all these years, I'll make him pay for them one by one. The Vice Pavilion Master shouted, a trace of viciousness creeping up between his brows. Senior, please calm down first. Even if the Golden Crow Temple appears, it won't be able to sentence Feng Yuan to death. Qin Feiyang said. The Vice Pavilion Master was slightly taken aback and frowned. What do you mean? Feng Yuan is an old fox. Even if you come to Nine Heavens Palace and tell the Great Elder the truth, Feng Yuan will definitely not admit it. He can say that he took the Golden Crow Temple for himself because of a moment of greed. If Feng Yuan refuses to admit it, what can we do to him? There's nothing we can do. In the end, the Great Elder can only take back the Golden Crow Temple and punish Feng Yuan. After the punishment, he will still be as carefree as before. The most important thing is, once he knows that we are investigating him, he will be more careful in the future. He will even immediately erase all traces of this matter. At that time, it will be even more difficult for us to find evidence. Qin Feiyang said. Hearing this, the Vice Pavilion Master slowly calmed down and nodded. What you said makes sense. I was foolish just now. Understandable. After all, I have been wronged for so many years. If it were me, I would have done the same. Qin Feiyang smiled. Then I'll leave this matter to you. If you need anything, just say it. I will do my best to help you. The Vice Pavilion Master said. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, Junior will definitely clear Senior's name. Thank you. The Vice Pavilion Master said gratefully. Senior has taken care of me during this period, so this is what I should do. There's no need to thank me. However, I really want something. Qin Feiyang said. What is it? The Vice Pavilion Master was suspicious. Chaos Origin Divine Art. Qin Feiyang said. Primordial God Technique. The Vice Pavilion Master was stunned. Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. The Vice Pavilion Master asked, Do you know the cultivation conditions of the Chaos Divine Art? I know. The first time I entered the Treasure Pavilion, I saw the Chaos Origin Divine Art. Only those who have born inner demons can cultivate it. Qin Feiyang said. Then what do you want the Chaos Divine Art for? Wait. Don't tell me you have inner demons. The Vice Pavilion Master was bewildered. Qin Feiyang sighed. To be honest, I did have inner demons in the past. The Deputy Pavilion Lord stared at Qin Feiyang, dumbfounded. In the past, not only did I have inner demons, I also had a very good relationship with the inner demons. We live in peace and depend on each other. We are like twins. But good times don't last long. Later on, in order to save me, he sacrificed himself. Qin Feiyang sighed, and the space between his brows was suffused with dense sorrow. It's really hard to imagine that there is such a benevolent and righteous inner demons in this world. The Vice Pavilion Lord sighed. If it came from someone else, he would definitely not believe it. But he felt that Qin Feiyang would not lie to him. Qin Feiyang sighed faintly. In this life, I owe him too much, and I can't repay him. Since the inner demons have already sacrificed themselves, the Chaos Origin Divine Art is meaningless to you. What do you want it for? The Vice Pavilion Lord asked. I don't know either. Since the first time I saw the Chaos Origin Divine Art, my heart has always yearned for it. Qin Feiyang said in confusion. The yearning of the heart, the Vice Pavilion Lord murmured and sighed. You probably can't let go of the inner demons, and you have never wanted to admit the death of the inner demons, so this yearning appeared. I really can't let go. I'm even wondering if he's not dead yet. Maybe he's waiting for me somewhere. But I know that it's impossible. I'm very confused. Qin Feiyang said. I didn't expect your feelings for the inner demons to be so deep. The Vice Pavilion Lord sighed and pondered for a while before saying, how about this, when you're free, come to the Treasure Pavilion, and I'll ask little Chiu to give you the Chaos Origin Divine Art. Thank you, Senior. Qin Feiyang hurriedly bowed and thanked him. But you have to remember, this Chaos Origin Divine Art is given to you, and you can't give it to anyone. Unless the other party has the inner demons. The Vice Pavilion Lord reminded. Qin Feiyang stared blankly for a moment before he said, Senior, pardon me for asking, but is your treasure pavilion specially looking for people with inner demons? How so? The Vice Pavilion Lord looked at Qin Feiyang curiously. Qin Feiyang said, because the Chaos Origin Divine Art is sold at zero price, which is obviously not the style of a businessman. Young friend, you're really smart. The Vice Pavilion Lord looked at Qin Feiyang with appreciation and nodded. That's right, the Treasure Pavilion is indeed looking for people with the inner demons. Why? Qin Feiyang was puzzled. The Vice Pavilion Lord smiled apologetically. This matter is related to a big shot, so I can't say much. Please forgive me. Big shot? Qin Feiyang was shocked. This big shot had extraordinary significance. Because an existence like the Vice Pavilion Lord was already a big shot standing at the top of the pyramid. But at this moment, there was actually a big shot that even the Vice Pavilion Lord had to call a big shot. The Vice Pavilion Lord was such a powerful existence, so how terrifying was the big shot he mentioned? Coming back to his senses. Qin Feiyang hurriedly asked, since it's related to a big shot, then if you give me the Chaos Origin Divine Art now, how will you explain it to him? I will explain your situation to him. I believe he will definitely understand. The Vice Pavilion Lord smiled. As long as I don't cause trouble for you, I'm relieved. Qin Feiyang said. I won't. The Vice Pavilion Lord waved his hand and asked, I wonder if you have any plans now. Qin Feiyang said, is it to deal with Feng Yuan? The Vice Pavilion Lord nodded. I do have a plan. Mu Tianyang, Frenzy, Hua Yi, and I will go to the deepest part of the Sky Dragon Sea tomorrow. This may be a life and death battle. Qin Feiyang said with a smile. The deepest part of the Sky Dragon Sea. The Vice Pavilion Lord was shocked and hurriedly said, the Sky Dragon Sea is not an ordinary dangerous place, especially the deepest part. Even I don't dare to step into it. You kids, are you courting death? Although it has something to do with Feng Yuan, there are also reasons why we have to go. Qin Feiyang said. What is the reason that you have to go? The Vice Pavilion Lord frowned. This, Qin Feiyang hesitated. If you don't want to say, I won't force you. But I still hope that you can think about it carefully. This is not child's play. You will lose your life. If you insist on going, then come to the Treasure Pavilion now and look for little Chiu. The Vice Pavilion Lord said. Look for her for what? Qin Feiyang was puzzled. You will know when you come. The Vice Pavilion Lord said. Qin Feiyang nodded and said, all right, I will go to the Treasure Pavilion immediately. It seems that you really insist on going to the Sky Dragon Sea. I have to say that it is good to be young. You can do whatever you want. But to be honest, I still admire young people like you who dare to take risks. The Vice Pavilion Lord shook his head and smiled. Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly. If it weren't for the fact that he was looking for his ancestor, he wouldn't be willing to take this risk. After turning off the image crystal, Qin Feiyang immediately set off and rushed to the treasure pavilion. Jiang Haotian, stop right there. But when Qin Feiyang walked down the sky stairway and was about to open the altar, a shout suddenly sounded from the mountain stream below. It was a woman's voice. Qin Feiyang was stunned. He walked to the edge of the cliff and looked down, only to see a chubby woman rising into the air aggressively. She was no longer fat. She was at least 200 to 300 pounds and was full of fat. Obviously, she was extremely ugly. Bam! The woman landed on the mountain peak and the ground shook. You are. Qin Feiyang looked at the fat woman suspiciously. But the fat woman stared at Qin Feiyang without saying a word. Her eyes were full of hatred. That's ridiculous. Qin Feiyang shook his head and opened the altar. Boom! But then, the fat woman took a step forward and smashed the altar with a punch. Then, she threw another punch at Qin Feiyang. Divine power surged and the void shook. A war god of perfection. Qin Feiyang frowned and immediately raised his hand and threw a punch. Boom! The fat woman was directly sent flying and smashed onto the ground in a sorry state. Who are you? Have I offended you? Qin Feiyang said angrily. He had never seen this woman before. Cut the crap. Give me back the lives of my son and husband. The fat woman roared and rushed toward Qin Feiyang like a mad beast. Son. Husband. What the hell is this? When did I kill your son and husband? Qin Feiyang dodged and asked suspiciously. How long has it been since Jin Yunchang died? Have you forgotten? The fat woman roared. With a clang, a broadsword appeared. It was as wide as a palm and was golden in color. It was a peak-level divine artifact. Jin Yunchang. Qin Feiyang looked at the fat woman in astonishment. So, this woman is Feng Yuan's daughter? Jin Fatso's mother? The corner of his mouth twitched. This woman was not someone that an ordinary man could handle. Jin Yunchang was a talented man. If it weren't for the power of the Feng family, he wouldn't have married this woman. No wonder everyone said that Jin Yunchang was a man who lived off a woman. But frankly speaking, he was quite impressed with Jin Yunchang. He sacrificed so much in order to get close to the Feng family. Little bastard, go to hell. The fat woman roared and grabbed the broadsword. Divine power surged into the broadsword and the broadsword immediately came to life. Then, she slashed at Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang frowned and quickly dodged. Then, he glanced at the old man sitting next to the stairway. The old man didn't open his eyes. Was this a tacit agreement? Could he do whatever he wanted? Just as Qin Feiyang was wondering, the fat woman slashed at him again. Qin Feiyang stepped back and said angrily, Are the people of the Feng family all so unreasonable? It was Fatso and Jin Yunchang who provoked me first. I was just. Cut the crap. You must die today. The fat woman roared. Chapter 2151. You're unreasonable. Qin Feiyang also lost his patience. Although he shouldn't implicate his wife and children, this woman was the one who came to his door first, so there was no need to be polite. Moreover, there was a peak-level divine artifact, so he couldn't miss it. Boom! The aura of a perfect war god was fully unleashed. Qin Feiyang didn't dodge anymore, and took the initiative to attack. The Xing character art was used to the extreme, like a ghost, the fat woman almost couldn't catch his trace. As the daughter of Feng Yuan, the fat woman naturally had a lot of trump cards. For example, the support divine arts were all perfect level. However, in front of the Xing character art, perfect level support divine arts were like an adult and a baby, completely not on the same level. In less than 10 breaths, Qin Feiyang found an opportunity, a wisp of blood flew out and instantly cut off the fat woman's arm. And it was the arm that was holding the broadsword. Blood splattered in the sky. The fat woman covered her wound and screamed. However, Qin Feiyang didn't pay attention to her. He quickly dived down and grabbed the broadsword. Don't even think about it. The fat woman roared angrily and wanted to take back the broadsword. Sorry, once something is in my hands, you won't have the chance to take it back. Qin Feiyang grinned and directly sent the broadsword to the castle. The fat woman also instantly felt that she had lost contact with the broadsword. You deserve to die. This made her almost crazy. Ignoring the wound on her shoulder, she angrily pounced at Qin Feiyang. Why don't you know how to restrain yourself? Qin Feiyang sighed. In the blink of an eye, a wisp of blood flew into the fat woman's forehead like lightning. Her soul was immediately destroyed. Ah! Accompanied by a shrill scream, the fat woman suddenly smashed into the mountain peak like a huge rock, and died. Aunt! It was also at this moment. An anxious cry of grief sounded. Qin Feiyang frowned. This was really strange. After killing one, another one came. He turned around and saw a woman flying through the air toward him. The woman was tall and beautiful. She wore a pure black dress with a small white flower on her chest. She looked like she was in mourning. And she was Feng Zihan. Aunt, Feng Zihan flew over and landed beside the fat woman, calling out softly. Qin Feiyang glanced at Feng Zihan and took out a teleportation altar. Stop! Feng Zihan suddenly shouted, standing up and staring at Qin Feiyang, his eyes filled with killing intent. Qin Feiyang said indifferently, It's not my fault. She came to kill me first. So you killed her? Feng Zihan said furiously. What a joke. She came to kill me, so why can't I kill her? Am I supposed to stand here and let her slaughter me? Qin Feiyang sneered. Feng Zihan was silent for a while, then said word by word, blood for blood. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows. Each one was more unreasonable than the other. Suddenly, the white-haired old man sitting beside the heaven stairway said, Feng Zihan, Jiang Haotian was indeed defending himself. Did you hear that? Qin Feiyang snorted coldly. Feng Zihan's face was gloomy. Suddenly, she turned to look at the white-haired old man and bowed, Senior, all along, as long as the people of Nine Heavens Palace leave Nine Heavens Palace, no matter what. You won't ask. Are you sure you want to do this? The white-haired old man asked, his eyes still closed. I'm sure. Feng Zihan nodded. Up to you. The white-haired old man said indifferently and then fell silent. Shua. Feng Zihan turned around again and looked at Qin Feiyang, saying, Come, let me see how capable you are. Coming early is better than coming at the right time. How lively. Suddenly, a mocking laugh sounded. Qin Feiyang raised his head and saw a madman walking down the heaven stairway step by step. He asked in surprise, Weren't you in closed-door cultivation? Isn't it all because of that Hui? He came over and said a bunch of nonsense to this father, making this father a little annoyed, so I ran out to relax. I didn't expect to meet you guys. What a coincidence. Stinking woman, what are you trying to do? Madman looked at Feng Zihan and asked. Feng Zihan frowned her beautiful brows, saying, This is a matter between me and Jiang Haotian, don't interfere. That won't do. The reason this father was able to come out of the prison alive was all because of Jiang Haotian. This father is a person who values friendship the most. If he is in trouble, how can this father just sit by and do nothing? Moreover, your mother harmed this father also wants to have a good chat with you. After Madman finished speaking, he stepped in front of Qin Feiyang and said with a faint smile, Go busy yourself. Thank you, senior brother. Qin Feiyang smiled. He opened the altar and jumped up without looking back. Stop right there. Feng Zihan shouted coldly and instantly appeared behind Madman, sending a palm towards the teleportation altar. But at the same time, Madman grabbed Feng Zihan's wrist and said unhappily, "Can you not treat this father like air? Let go." Feng Zihan shouted. "All right." Madman grinned and a huge force appeared in his palm. Feng Zihan was sent flying as a trace of blood flowed out from the corner of her mouth. "You," Feng Zihan angrily stared at Madman. "Why don't we spar again? But let me say this in advance, this father won't go easy on you." Madman's lips curled into a playful smile. Feng Zihan looked at Madman and then at Qin Feiyang, only to see that Qin Feiyang was about to disappear. Shua! With another flash, she charged towards Qin Feiyang. "You really don't put this father in your eyes." Madman's face also showed a trace of anger. His half-step immortal aura surged toward Feng Zihan like an avalanche. Poof! Feng Zihan was sent flying again as blood poured out of her mouth. At the same time, Qin Feiyang completely disappeared. The teleportation altar also disintegrated and dissipated. "Madman, you bastard, you actually hurt me again and again for someone you just met." Feng Zihan was furious. Madman said helplessly, "If you could be more honest, would this father hurt you?" Twisting words and forcing logic. "You want to spar? Okay. I'll accompany you today." With a boom, Feng Zihan's aura was released and she was close to Madman's. "Not bad. Your cultivation has improved a bit." Madman chuckled. "Stop grinning at me." Feng Zihan coldly snorted, suddenly raising her arm, her jade finger pointing in the air. Boom! A destructive aura suddenly appeared out of nowhere like the eruption of a volcano. Annihilation Divine Finger. Madman's pupils constricted as he shouted, "Are you serious? Do I look like I'm joking?" Feng Zihan shouted. "What a crazy woman." Madman shook his head but didn't counterattack. He just dodged. As for the white-haired old man, he didn't even look at her from beginning to end and seemed extremely calm. The treasure pavilion had already closed. But there were still 2 guards guarding the door. When Qin Feiyang arrived at the treasure pavilion, the 2 guards immediately bowed and said, "Young Master Jiang, the manager has been waiting for you inside for a long time." "Okay." Qin Feiyang nodded and pushed the door open. He saw a beautiful woman standing in the middle of the hall. There was only the woman in the entire hall and it was very quiet. It was Shengguan Qiu. Qin Feiyang closed the door behind him and said with a smile, "I'm sorry, something happened on the way and I've kept you waiting." Shengguan Qiu was stunned and frowned. "What happened?" "Feng Yuan's daughter. This family is really difficult to deal with." Qin Feiyang shook his head. "So many people have died, but they still don't know how to restrain themselves. It seems that the Feng family is hopeless." Shengguan Qiu shook her head and sighed. She took out a jade box and handed it to Qin Feiyang. "This is what you want." Qin Feiyang took the jade box and opened it to take a look. He saw a jade slip lying quietly inside. "Chaos Divine Technique," Qin Feiyang murmured as he grabbed the jade slip. His divine consciousness sank into it, and a trace of melancholy crept up between his brows. Shengguan Qiu said, "The deputy pavilion master has already told me about the inner demons. To be honest, I'm really surprised." "Surprised?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. "Yes. Normally, only those who are particularly vicious will give birth to inner demons. As for you, although we haven't known each other for long, I can see that you're not that kind of ruthless devil. Your state of mind is also very good. How did you give birth to inner demons?" Shengguan Qiu was suspicious. Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled. "The state of mind is tempered." "Tempered?" Shengguan Qiu said, Only about 500 sets of herbs. That's not a lot. More than 500. Qin Feiyang felt extremely helpless. If he had known earlier, he wouldn't have helped. Don't be like that. Anyway, you'll get a share of the soul stones from the auction. You can take the herbs back first and refine as many as you can. You can return the rest to me tomorrow morning. Sheng Guanqiu smiled. Qin Feiyang shook his head and said, "There's no need to go back to the Ninth Heaven Palace. Let's do it here." It was troublesome to run around. Here. Sheng Guanqiu was stunned. Yes. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and took out the netherworld demonic flame and the blue phoenix cauldron. So you have your own alchemy fire. Sheng Guanqiu suddenly realized. Qin Feiyang said, "I don't like to be disturbed when I'm refining pellets. You can arrange it." Okay. Sheng Guanqiu nodded and walked to the door. He opened the door and said to the two guards outside, "From now on, I won't see anyone." Yes. The two guards replied respectfully. Also, you are not allowed to make a sound. After Sheng Guanqiu finished speaking, he gently closed the door. What do you mean? The two guards looked at each other. Wait. Jiang Haotian didn't come out, did he? A man and a woman are alone inside. Are they? Don't talk nonsense. How is that nonsense? Didn't you hear the rumors outside? There's something going on between our steward and Jiang Haotian. Look at them now. The two of them are alone inside, a man and a woman, naked. Damn, this is too exciting. Looks like the treasure pavilion is going to have a wedding soon. The two of them whispered to each other outside, but there was dead silence inside. Qin Feiyang closed his eyes and focused. Sheng Guanqiu stood aside silently and looked at Qin Feiyang curiously. There was a divine power boundary around the two of them. It was set up by Sheng Guanqiu. It was mainly to isolate the high temperature of the netherworld demonic flame. After all, the netherworld demonic flame was now a divine-level alchemy fire. When it recovered, the high temperature would sweep through the entire treasure pavilion. A moment later. Qin Feiyang finally opened his eyes and began to refine pills calmly. Every movement and step was as smooth as flowing water. It was a visual pleasure. Sheng Guanqiu was unknowingly mesmerized. Time flew by. The next day, early morning. 3 figures descended on the coastline of the Sky Dragon Sea. They were Hua Yi, Frenzy, and Mu Tianyang. Mu Tianyang smiled and said, "Good morning, you two. It's already so late. Is it still early?" Frenzy rolled his eyes. Mu Tianyang came to Frenzy's side and smiled. "Senior brother Frenzy, I heard that you fought with Feng Zihan outside last night. When I went out this morning, I also heard everyone talking about it. And someone said that Jiang Haotian killed Feng Yuan's daughter. Senior brother Frenzy, is that true?" Hua Yi asked. "Yes." Frenzy nodded. Hua Yi shook his head. "The Feng family is really hopeless. What was the result of your fight with Feng Zihan?" Frenzy said angrily, "Nonsense, is there a need to ask? Of course, I won. That can't be right. I heard that you didn't fight back. We have such a good relationship, so just say something from the bottom of your heart. Do you not have the heart to hurt her? Do you like her in your heart?" Hua Yi smiled mischievously. Frenzy raised his eyebrows and said angrily, "You even dare to gossip about me. Do you think you can be arrogant just because you have the Vice Palace Master backing you? No, no. Don't misunderstand. I'm just curious. Besides, liking someone is not a shameful thing. Look at me, I follow behind Lan Er all day, and no one says anything." Hua Yi chuckled. "I'm not as thick-skinned as you." Frenzy's face was full of disdain. Then he looked around and frowned. "Why isn't Jiang Haotian here yet? I don't know. Before I came, I went to his cave abode. There was no one. Hua Yi shook his head. Anyway, there's no rush. Let's wait. Mu Tianyang smiled. Treasure Pavilion. At this moment, there were already hundreds of people gathered outside. These people all came to the treasure pavilion early in the morning to buy things or sell things. But when they arrived, they found that the treasure pavilion, which usually opened for business before dawn, was actually closed today. Moreover, the two guards guarding the outer door didn't allow them to question or make a ruckus. What was going on? There were more and more people, but the door didn't open for a long time. Are you still going to open the door today? Can you give us a definite answer? If you're not opening, we'll go back first and come back tomorrow. Finally, someone couldn't help but ask. Shoo. The two guards hurriedly glared at the man and gestured for him to keep quiet. In fact, they were also puzzled. It had already been an entire night. Even if they were having sex inside, it should have been over long ago. Creak. Suddenly, a sound rang. Everyone looked at the door. They saw the door open, and a white-clothed youth with a tired and haggard face walked out. Jiang Haotian. Why is he in the treasure pavilion? And he looks so haggard. Everyone was stunned. Good morning, everyone. Qin Feiyang showed a forced smile, greeted the crowd, and opened a transmission altar. Sheng Guanxiu also came out at this time, waved at Qin Feiyang and said with a smile, "Take care, I won't see you off." His expression was completely different from Qin Feiyang's. He was radiant and full of vitality. Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes at Sheng Guanxiu, stepped onto the altar, and quickly disappeared. Sheng Guanxiu also turned and left with a smile on his face. Damn! Sheng Guanxiu is also here. What's going on? Everyone's face was full of doubts. Chapter 2153. You don't even know about war. Hua Yi was surprised. What do you mean? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. Ahem. Mu Tianyang coughed and said, "It means that you and Sheng Guanxiu are having sex in the treasure pavilion." Ah. Qin Feiyang was stunned and looked at Hua Yi speechlessly. What was he thinking all day long? Why was he so filthy? Actually, I don't mind if you become my brother-in-law. Hua Yi chuckled. Can I mind? Qin Feiyang glared at him fiercely. What do you mind? I'm the disciple of the Vice Palace Master. It's your honor to be my brother-in-law. Hua Yi pouted. Get lost. Qin Feiyang didn't want to talk nonsense with him anymore. He looked at Frenzy and Mu Tianyang and said, I have to recuperate. Which one of you is willing to let me into your spatial divine item? Frenzy acted as if he didn't hear it. Mu Tianyang glanced at Frenzy and said helplessly, Go to my divine palace. Okay. I also want to see it. Qin Feiyang said. Mu Tianyang smiled and said, It seems that you have confirmed it with the Vice Palace Master. Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. What did he say? Mu Tianyang was curious. Qin Feiyang said, He was very angry, but I calmed him down. Otherwise, your divine palace would definitely be destroyed. Mu Tianyang said, Then shouldn't I thank you? Qin Feiyang shook his head and said, No need to thank me. I know you're hypocritical. As long as you don't stab me in the back. What are you two talking about? What divine palace? It's related to the Vice Palace Master. Frenzy looked at the two suspiciously. It's the Golden Crow Divine Palace. Hua Yi interjected. Yesterday, when Mu Tianyang came down from the second floor, Hua Yi was also present, so he knew about the Golden Crow Temple. What? Golden Crow Temple? Madman was dumbfounded. Brother Hua, why are you so talkative? Mu Tianyang angrily looked at Hua Yi. He definitely couldn't let Madman know about this. Because of the Madman's relationship with the First Elder, he definitely knew about the existence of the Golden Crow Temple. What if Madman told the Great Elder? Hui innocently asked, is there a need to hide this from Senior Apprentice Brother Crazy? Alas! Mu Tianyang sighed and said, the original owner of the Golden Crow Temple was actually the First Elder's son. I see. Hui immediately understood. Looking at Mu Tianyang, he smiled and said, I'm sorry. I've already said it. What's the use of apologizing? Mu Tianyang rolled his eyes at him. Golden Crow Temple, the First Elder's son, Madman muttered to himself and looked at the three of them. You guys are really amazing. You actually investigated so many secrets without anyone knowing. Hearsay, hearsay. Mu Tianyang laughed dryly. Stop talking nonsense. Madman raised his eyebrows and looked at Mu Tianyang. How did the Golden Crow Temple end up in your hands? This, Mu Tianyang hesitated. When Feng Zihan comprehended the profound meaning of becoming a god, he was in Longquan Mountain. Gongzi Feng nodded. A cold light flashed in Huiyi's eyes as he looked at Qin Feiyang and said, Brother Jiang, didn't you want to kill him? Now is a good chance. Qin Feiyang was silent. Gongzi Feng said again, there's one more thing. What is it? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. Gao Xiaowei is missing. Gongzi Feng said. How did she go missing? Qin Feiyang frowned. Sigh. Gao Xiaolong's death was a big blow to her. 2 days ago, she came to find me. I didn't know what to say and she never appeared again. Gongzi Feng sighed. Of course you don't know what to say because Gao Xiaolong was killed by you. Qin Feiyang said angrily. Gongzi Feng lowered his head in shame. Qin Feiyang said, let me tell you, you must find her for me or I will take your little life. Yes. Gongzi Feng's eyes trembled as he hurriedly replied. Qin Feiyang said in a low voice, give me the coordinates of Longquan Mountain. Without waiting for Gongzi Feng to speak, the madman said, I know the location of Longquan Mountain. Qin Feiyang was stunned. He looked at Gongzi Feng and said, go find Gao Xiaowei immediately. Okay. Gongzi Feng nodded and the image disappeared. Qin Feiyang kept the image crystal and looked at the madman, we will listen to you this time. If you say go to Longquan Mountain, we will go. Of course. Since I can't kill Feng Yuan now, I will collect some interest first. A cold light flashed in the madman's eyes. Okay. Let's go. Qin Feiyang nodded. The madman took out an altar. Wait. Look over there. Is there a person? Hui suddenly looked in the direction of the left coast. Qin Feiyang and the other two were stunned and looked over. On the coast, there was indeed a person standing on a reef. However, the distance was too far. Qin Feiyang and Mu Tianyang couldn't see clearly. The madman said, it's Gao Xiaowei. His cultivation was higher than Qin Feiyang, so he naturally saw further than Qin Feiyang. It's her. Why is she standing there alone? Could it be, she can't take it anymore and wants to commit suicide? Mu Tianyang said in shock. Suicide. Qin Feiyang was shocked. He quickly teleported and rushed over. Mu Tianyang and the other two looked at each other and followed. Soon. Qin Feiyang rushed behind the reef. The reef stood on the surface of the sea, more than 10 meters tall. Gao Xiaowei stood alone on it. The wind messed up her hair, and her face looked extremely haggard. At this moment, she was like a helpless girl, staring at the sea in front of her, her eyes filled with confusion. And there was also a sadness that couldn't be dispelled from her body. It seems to be quite serious. Mu Tianyang transmitted his voice. The Gao family was exterminated, leaving only the siblings to rely on each other. And now, even her only brother died an unnatural death. In the face of such a blow, even a man might not be able to withstand it, let alone a woman like her. Qin Feiyang sighed inwardly. Mu Tianyang said, "Then you go and persuade her." And Qin Feiyang nodded. But at this moment, Gao Xiaohui smiled sadly, opened her hands, leaned forward, and slowly fell down. Damn! She really wants to commit suicide. Hui Yi's face changed. Who knew how many sea beasts were lurking in the sea? With Gao Xiaohui's cultivation, once she fell into the sea, she would definitely die. Qin Feiyang's face also changed. He jumped and instantly landed behind Gao Xiaohui. Then, he grabbed Gao Xiaohui's wrist and pulled her back. Gao Xiaohui was surprised and turned around. When she saw Qin Feiyang standing behind her, she was stunned. "What are you doing?" Qin Feiyang frowned. Gao Xiaohui lowered her head. Qin Feiyang said, "I know Gao Xiaolong's death is very painful for you, but what you're doing, are you worthy of him? Then what can I do? In the past, although I lost my family, at least Big Brother was with me. But now, Big Brother has left me, what's the point of me living alone in this world?" Gao Xiaohui roared. "I'm very sorry about your Big Brother's death. But I believe your Big Brother didn't want you to do this. I understand the feeling of losing a loved one. But those who are still alive should live well. This is the best way to repay the dead." Qin Feiyang sighed. Gao Xiaohui shook her head, but enough. There's no hurdle you can't cross. After all, in a person's life and death is a process you have to go through. Qin Feiyang smiled comfortingly. Big Brother Jiang, Gao Xiaohui threw herself into Qin Feiyang's arms and cried. "Although Gao Xiaolong isn't here, as long as you don't mind, I'll be your Big Brother in the future." Qin Feiyang patted Gao Xiaohui's back and smiled. But hearing this, Gao Xiaohui's body stiffened. "Only Big Brother?"